Hey, so I feel like I'm going to fall into a pattern where every single one of these intros are going to consist of me having to explain a new technical difficulty. I'm not even going to lie, this one is probably the dumbest mistake I could have possibly made. Basically, I asked Lextorias when would be a good time for us to record, and he said literally any time, so I was like, okay, let's record at night. But what I didn't even bother to consider was that I don't even have a fucking light source at night. So if by the end of the recording, you happen to notice that my webcam looks like a literal silhouette, then just shut your fucking mouth, okay? I already went on Amazon and bought a ring light, so I don't want to hear about it in the comments, okay? I am a professional YouTuber, and I know exactly what I'm doing. Anyways, this episode's a bit of a longer one where I got to chat with Lextorias, a fellow Alex. I really enjoyed recording this one, and it was way more obvious that I was a bit more used to it than the last episode. And as always, feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments down below, and let me know if there's anybody else you'd like to see me chat with.
I do go by Lex as a shorthand for Lextorias. So that might help differentiate me as a different person from you. Even though I'm sure anyone that looks at both of us can see that we're pretty dissimilar.
We're identical people.
Oh,
we're identical people.
Brothers.
Yeah, we're like AI generated. I'm actually talking to myself, and we're both just like via commute. I made 2 channels. This is like a new announcement that I need to make. I made a channel where I talk about gaming and anime, and it's just on the side. It's not. If you paid a bit more attention, you would notice that we're 2 separate channels. But
you say that my parents both know that I do YouTube. And every once in a while I talk to them about it, but they do not care about video games. So like I have nothing to like really tell them about other than I just make videos. And my dad literally texts me out of the blue one day being like, hey, I saw that you have like another channel called like Alex. Like that's pretty cool. No, wait,
shut the fuck. You're fucking with me.
He actually sent me that text where he's like, is that your channel? And I was like, no, that's a different guy. Because he just never even clicked on the video to see that it wasn't me. He just thought every channel on YouTube called Alex or had anything to do with it was also mine.
Holy shit. I've never... no. I've had the exact same story, but it wasn't for you. It was for this chick who has the exact same, like she also goes by and then space Lex. Oh. And she's like a makeup channel. And my roommate's mom was just, when I first moved into San Diego, my roommates, like I was just getting to know my roommates, and then I had dinner with like their family and stuff. And their mom asked me what I did. And I was like, oh, I do, like I make videos on a channel named Alex. And then they typed it in like a week later, and they ended up finding the makeup channel. And I obviously don't look like this person, but they also were just really confused. They're like, is this what your roommate does? Like, what?
Yeah, maybe. I don't judge.
Yeah, I put on a wig or something, I guess. I remember when I first started my channel, I noticed, because you'll type in your own name. Like, you know, you just want to see what comes up on the search bar when you type in your own name or whatever. And I remember seeing hers, and I was like, I must defeat this person. I must be the number one Alex.
Oh yeah, no, when I first started my channel, I have like a thing with like even my usernames back in high school when I had like gamer tags. I wanted to make sure they were like actually unique. Like I couldn't use numbers or anything. I wanted like my own thing. And Lextorias is from like, I had this since high school, and I remember looking up Lextorias, and there was a Instagram account that was like sort of spelled similar. I think like Lextoria something. And I was like, oh, I need to like, and they only had like 100 followers. So I was like, oh, I can surpass them eventually. And now I'm fortunate enough to say that if you look up Lextorias, I do show up, and it is my thumbnail with giant anime boobs.
Is it really? Is it the fan service video that comes up first?
There was a while where if you searched fan service, my video showed up at the top of the Google results. Like back when that video was at its peak. I will say I found that video everywhere. Like just in terms of, I'd say my recommended runs primarily on manga and anime. I remember seeing your video in my recommended in a permanent state of the top of my recommended for just a week, and I never watched it. I refused. That thumbnail is all you need to see.
I was like, fuck that guy. I'm not going anywhere near this. I mean, the first, I think. I remember seeing that video, but I think the first video I ever came across of yours was the Dead Space one, actually. Oh, and yeah. I don't know, what was the timeline for that? I mean, you would probably know this, but which one came before?
So the Dead Space one came out I want to say even like months before the fan service one came out. But then the Dead Space one was like a normal video of mine at the time. It only got a couple thousand views. And then when the fan service video blew up, a bunch of people went back and watched the horror games video. And that's when that video blew up. So like they blew up at the exact same time, where I think a lot of people just ended up watching one after the other because they were like kind of my two best videos at the time. But even though they have nothing to do with each other at all, but they both blew up and got like the same amount of views. Like they were both creeping up to 1 million at the same time. It was really weird.
I guess, I mean, before we get into that, maybe you want to explain like what is your channel to anybody that's never seen it before. I would say you primarily make video essays about anime and video games, and I'm curious, like, would you agree with that? Would you say you could like to, you know, flesh out to other topics? Or
yeah, I make, I guess you would call them video essays. It's very hard describing the exact style of video, even to people who are very familiar with YouTube videos, because a lot of the, like my horror games video is just a video essay. And I've made straight video essays before, and a lot of them I've started sort of changing into almost more of a, I guess almost like a commentary channel or something. But in general, my channel is me talking about video games, generally with some sort of point, and then talking about anime with some sort of like, I guess, video essay style point, even if the video itself isn't trying to be like super persuasive or in depth on something. I just in general talk about nerdy topics that I love and try to tell people about the, I guess, kind of behind the scenes that they might not know about, or just any interesting topics that I find in relation to them. But it is all over the place in terms of like the style of video that I make. I've experimented a lot with that.
was there, like, when you originally started making your channel, did you have an idea of what type of things you would talk about? Did you tell yourself like it was going to be either on anime and video games, or was it just kind of like things sort of happened and you figured it out as things went on?
So my channel originally, you can even still see it if you go to like the About. My channel was started in 2016, and I was in high school at the time, and I wanted to be a Let's Player. That's how actually what Lextorias originally was me just playing video games on camera in high school to like 10 people that watched me. And I did that until like 2019, 2020, and that started when I went into college and just dropped off making videos because I was focusing on university, wasn't getting any views or anything like that. Like that would have made me keep going. And then
Were you like, what game was it exactly though?
Just a bunch of like random games that I like. I think the first series that I did is I played through Dark Souls 3, because I want to say that game came out like right when I started the channel, and I'm a huge like Souls game fan. And then I think the biggest video that I made back when I was doing Let's Plays was I did one on Black Desert Online, the Korean MMO. And I made, because that game has like a super in-depth character creator, I made 2B from Nier Automata in Black Desert Online and like clickbaited that and got like a couple thousand views. But it was mostly just like Dark Souls, Dishonored, like random single player games that I really liked.
And then so you did this all the way from 2016 until you finished college, and then was there like, did you just stop uploading from there? Did you just go straight into making the videos that you do now, or like how did that work out?
Yeah, so I did the Let's Plays basically throughout high school and like the first year of college, and then just stopped doing them because I was focusing on other things. And it was literally with like the COVID pandemic, when everything went into lockdown. I was still in my dorm room in university at the time, and I couldn't leave to go anywhere because everything was closed, and I wasn't like, all of my classes were online, so I had like no reason to even leave my dorm room. And I ended up just getting so bored and like depressed because I like had nothing going on. So I told myself like, all right, now's the time to like catch up on movies and shows and video games that I want to play. And the first thing I started doing was just watching every anime that I'd ever wanted to watch at that point. And I just started binge watching a ton of anime. And then it was watching anime where I was like, oh man, like I had a YouTube channel like that I still have to like watch YouTube videos. Like I should like upload something like related to anime on it. And so I started looking up like anime YouTubers. I got into a bunch of like the big, however many, the big three, I guess you'd call them, like Mother's Basement and like the Trash Taste people, like Scamboli, like all of like the bigger anime YouTubers. And I was like, man, I just want to make something like that. And so I started just making videos that now are unlisted or just deleted off my channel that were like, I think the first one I did was redo of Healer. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, that horrible. What is basically a hentai that somehow got aired on television. I just made a video like dunking on that because that was super easy to do and that's what everyone was doing. And then I just kind of made a couple of videos like that until I eventually made my Cowboy Bebop video, which is the earliest now video on my channel because it's the only one that was like kind of good at the time. And then I just sort of transitioned where I was like, oh, if I'm talking about anime, I may as well talk about video games because I like video games too. And I just generally started talking about pretty much anything I liked. And even now I still kind of want to expand into like other interests of mine. But right now, like video games and anime are the two big ones. So that's what the channel is.
It's kind of crazy how you're almost wording it one-to-one to my origin story. I remember watching the exact same channels, and I was like, fuck, what do I want to talk about? But for me, it wasn't, instead of it being anime, I used to be like a huge film buff. So I watched, I think I ended up watching around 100 movies in the span of 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I just fucking, I just started making really, and let me put an emphasis on really bad videos about them. And Scamboli was, I think I had that same moment where I used to watch video essays since I was a teenager, and I feel like YouTube over the years had a certain way of making video essays. They kind of were more analytical and more so like a deep dive into the media that it was. And then when I watched the Scamboli video, I was like, wait. Or same thing goes with like Mother's Basement or Giguk. I just had this moment of realization where I was like, wait, they're just talking about it. Like it's not serious. And then I don't know why. I don't know if maybe you had the same reaction, but I was just like, what? It works like that? You can just do that?
Yeah, you can just talk about something and put anime footage over it and it kind of looks nice. And,
yeah, that's what.
And like that's the bare minimum, I think, for a lot of not even the big anime channels, but a lot of like, if you Google any given anime and try to find videos on it, that's like what most of them are just like, here's what I thought of X show or whatever. Or like, here's why X show sucks or is good or why it does this well or whatever. Yeah, I remember seeing...
YouTube had like this era of YouTube. It was either analytical or, like you said, they were just reviews. And I feel like we're kind of in this era now where it's a kind of a middle ground, I'd say. Maybe it falls into the category that you described it, like it's commentary, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I think people have started to... Because the video essay genre, like kind of how it was, I think the biggest ones I ever saw was like Every Frame a Painting and stuff like that, where it's like the deep dive into like how a shot is composed. And I remember watching those videos being like, I have no knowledge of this. Like I could never do something as knowledgeable and deep as this is. And then I think a lot of people started taking like bits and pieces of video essays and just applying them to other types of video. So it's like mostly a review, but then it has like a point at the end, or there's some sort of like connection to like the themes of the show. Like they take bits and pieces of what they know without necessarily just being like, oh, this is a 10-minute video where I'm going to talk about anime. Like I've seen it for my entire life and I know more about it than anyone alive. Like people have become more grounded in how deep they're going into like a lot of the aspects of anime or like even video games and stuff.
What do you mean? I think all of your videos are Wikipedia articles on very they're like dissertations about fan service. You know, they're very eloquent. They're very well spoken. I think you fall under that category. Don't undermine yourself. You know, it's very well researched. Although, speaking of which, so this morning I went through a binge where I just joined a bunch of different Patreons just because I have like certain I love behind the scenes stuff, and I took a look at yours. You're welcome, by the way. You're $1 richer now.
Oh, thank you.
And I saw, well, one, you post like very often, so which was kind of surprising in comparison to, I got to see like a retrospect of how Patreons work in general. And yours, I mean, you definitely do a good service in terms of people that are willing to give you money, which I'm here to just give you flowers for that. But also, you sometimes do posts to give context on the videos that you're making. And just the sheer amount of research that you've done for some of these is fucking absurd. I just want to ask you, the post that I saw, I think it was on the anime waifus or the fan service one. I don't remember. I would assume it's probably the anime waifus one, because probably. That one is more recent. What did you what that video is how long?
It's like an hour and 10, something like that. Hour and 12 minutes.
What I'm curious about is what did people not see? Like what they got to see an hour and 10 minutes of whatever you felt like you needed to say about anime waifus. What did you find out? What exactly did you have to go through?
Yeah, so that one, I mean, by far is probably the most amount of research I've done on that, because I've done videos on subjects where I think a lot of it is pretty well known. Even with my fan service video, like people know what fan service is. You don't really have to explain it other than just like the basics, because like most people just get it. But with waifus, I was looking at it and trying to make a similar video where I'm like, all right, here's kind of the history of how they evolved. And then every time I'd look it up, there's no like Wikipedia article just explaining it. There's no other videos that people have made where they're like, here's kind of like how waifus evolved, or like, here's how this thing came to be. So I just had to like find it out on my own from all of the primary sources, which is just reading books that people have written about the subject, and like deep dive journals that people have written for like scholarly articles and stuff like that. One of them was a PhD. Someone with a PhD was writing an entire journal on postmodernism in Japan that I had to read all of because it pertained to what I was talking about in the video. And there's just so much stuff that you have to like wade through to like get to the origins of what I wanted to know, which was very simple. It was just like, where did waifus come from, and like, why do people like them so much? But the more that I would do my like basic research of just like looking on Wikipedia or just finding like videos that people have made, I just never answered my own question until I had to like keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's just so much stuff that's not related to it that I had to read about. One of them was, I sourced them all in the video, but I think one of the books that I had to read was, oh God, what was it called? It was called like the Otaku Database or something. And it was just on like everything otaku and how they developed since World War II, like stuff that no one would ever expect to be put in a video just about anime waifus. And it only had like a couple sections that I used. But yeah, I don't know. Research is interesting to me. So I just really like reading that stuff and like learning all that. But for my videos, definitely something like the waifu video, I don't know if I would recommend it, just because there is like 90% of the information I learned was like useless, and it was only like the 10% here and there that I had to like piece together into my own thing.
It's just like I fully agree with you. I love the feeling of when you feel like you have a certain or like a surface level idea of a topic, and then when you keep diving into it, it just gets more and more and deeper, and you're just like, it almost feels like it's never going to end. But I don't know if I'd ever read a book about postmodernism in Japan. I feel like that's a wild level of effort. I don't think I've ever gone near.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is that I kind of planned out what I wanted that waifu video to say, or like what I wanted it to, just the general structure and like arguments I was making. And then I read all of the books, and the books like completely changed my mind on every opinion that I had. And so I had to like go back and be like, oh, I know nothing about any of this. Like everything that I know about how waifus work or how people respond to characters in fiction is like completely wrong and biased. So I really need to like adjust that now that I've learned this. So I am glad that I read them, just because the video would have been completely different otherwise. But it is just a level of like, I don't know. No, I think if I had made the video that I was originally planning to make without all that knowledge, no one would have like complained because no one even knows this stuff anyway. So everyone would have just been like, oh yeah, that's just like what he thinks about waifus that like is the common opinion about them. And I was like, no, I need to like go deeper and deeper until like eventually no one cares about like the stuff that I'm citing and sourcing and quoting in my video.
Because no one's gonna correct you. They're like, I'm not gonna go through that fucking effort.
Yeah, I literally had one comment from someone who's like, "Oh, I read that book," and I was like, "Really? Why?
Like, you fucking loser!
Like you did that for fun? Like, oh my god, I can't even."
I get paid to do this. What are you doing?
Yeah,
that's so funny. I feel like, wait, okay, could you clarify? What do you mean by you changed your opinion? Like, what was your initial opinion on waifus? Because I have my thoughts on it, but I didn't know you could do a certain amount of research that would completely alter that.
Yeah, so I guess it ties. It's my waifus video and my fan service video are basically like a two-piece, and in both of them, I was just looking at a big part of anime culture that everyone knows about. Like everyone knows about fan service. Lots of people have very vocal opinions on it. Everyone knows about waifus and like the kind of weird side to them, and many people have very vocal opinions on that. And I just wanted to look at like, I guess the validity of those opinions or just where those opinions came from in general. Like a lot of people really hate fan service online, but like, is there a reason why they hate it, or is it just kind of like a blind rage situation? And so in my fan service video, I started off by watching Fire Force, which has like some of the worst fan service ever in it. And I was like,
yeah,
I'm just going to make a video
that.
like roasting the shit out of this and like talking about why it's terrible. And then I did my research and I'm like, oh, well, fan service can actually be used in like good ways. And it's not like inherently bad. The show that kind of changed my mind that I had seen before, but had just rewatched for the video was Kill la Kill. Where I'm like, oh, if this show didn't have fan service in it, it would actually be worse. Like it would be a lesser experience. So I'm like, okay, that changed my mind. And then I kind of like formed my video around that. And then for the waifus,
that was my favorite segment, by the way. Your bit where you start talking about Fire Force and trying to explain the logistics of why this girl keeps getting undressed, and then you did like a little montage.
Yeah,
that was so fucking good.
I was watching that like literally just without an idea for a video in mind, and I saw the one scene that I show like in full in the video where she gets like blasted back, and I was like, hold on a minute, because it just comes out of nowhere. Like they do not set it up at all in the show. And then trying to explain that to people of like, yeah, this just kind of happens, and like they talk about it a lot, but they don't ever say. It's like explaining a power system in an anime where it's like you can do all the in-depth into like how the powers work and affect each other, but like why does everyone have powers? I don't know, they just do. It's a shonen, like people just have powers sometimes. And so the fan service was like, yeah, she just has fan service because she's in an anime. And I think people
that's
even
her superpower.
Yeah, right. And people even left comments that I guess in the manga, which is concluded, I guess they even go further to explain like why she has fan service. Which I didn't read when I had made that video. But like apparently the author was even like, oh no, she has a very good reason to have fan service in the show. Like it's a meta commentary on girls in anime or something like that. And so it's just a really weird show to like get into on that, because there is a lot of shows just have fan service and don't care. And that show was trying so hard to justify it, which just made it funnier that it was like terrible.
It's almost funny. I feel like fan service especially has this weird reaction where you either have, I'd say probably the normie reaction is to be like, what the fuck is this? How are you?
Yeah.
How could you possibly be mildly attracted to a fictional character, like somebody that is in a 2D space? And I feel like the other side of the reaction are very, very, very angry fans. And I'm curious, like, after that video came out, what which side did you notice most often?
Oh yeah. So first, to answer the previous video or the previous question, sorry. So for my waifu video, it was the same thing where I went into it like, people who like waifus are weird. Like we've seen everyone with like the weird body pillow that they care like a little too much about. And it's only really
yeah, that weird? I didn't know that was weird. What?
Oh no, that or like if someone has anime figurines, like it better be ironic. You better be doing this as a joke and not be seriously attracted to these characters. And I was like, yeah, that's my opinion. Like if you're too into it, like unironically, it's weird. And then I started doing research And a lot of the books that I read were very positive about waifus and talking about just in general, like how people develop feelings towards fictional characters and how they sort of like vent frustration or like real life stress into those characters. You know, you come home after a long day and hug your body pillow, and like that's a form of release for people. And so that sort of switched my opinion where I'm like, well, it isn't hurting anyone to like these things. And so like I came around and my waifus video is very positive of waifus, even if there's parts later where I do criticize like certain aspects. And one of the aspects that I criticized specifically in that video that I brought up in my fan service video is the L word, that I don't even like saying on YouTube because YouTube I know doesn't like it, but the lolly thing.
Yeah.
And I brought it up in the fan service video, literally just as a joke, where I just said like, hey, this is kind of weird. And I know age is just a number, but that number is 911 and you should be in prison. and people were like, oh, haha, funny. And then in my waifu's video, I'm like, okay, I need to actually explain this because it ties into the history of what I'm talking about. And like, I actually did research on the subject. And then I talk about it more in depth there, and just a bunch of comments of very pro L word people came after me for having any negative opinion. Not even like, I didn't even have like that drastic of an opinion. I explained even how like the overreaction to it across like all of anime is perverted is kind of weird. And even then, like a bunch of people just started coming out of the woodwork. Even on Twitter, I've gotten people like replying to me who say, oh, what's the thing? There's like pro shippers and anti shippers. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Or at least in the way you're probably going to describe it, I don't know what that is.
So it's literally just people have like shipping culture. These two characters should be together. Like I ship these two, whatever. And then there's like a subculture of that's like, okay, but there are limits. Like if there's a child character, you shouldn't say that they should be in a romantic relationship with an adult. Like that seems pretty obvious. And then a very certain subsect of the internet started calling those people anti-shippers. Like you're getting in the way of our, like we want to ship anyone with anyone. And if you have any limits to that, like you're the weirdo. And so they call people antis or like anti-shippers if you have any limits whatsoever to like two characters that you would like draw fan art of or something like that. And it's basically used as a slur for people that don't like lolly stuff, which is very weird. And people started like messaging me on Twitter and like DMing me on Twitter or like leaving YouTube comments calling me an anti and basically saying like you're a weirdo for not liking this, which is like the weirdest response ever.
It's like they're trying to gaslight you into being into it almost. It's like, what do you mean? We're all into this. What are you talking about?
It's a very weird thing for someone to send me that, and there's a whole community. So amongst themselves, I think it's very accepted, but like they kind of like, it's kind of like this tweet is reaching outside of my social circle kind of thing where like they message you and then I have no idea what pro and anti are. So I'm wondering like if I did something wrong, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, like I'm just kind of being a normal person here. Like I feel like if these are the kinds of people that are mad at me, that I'm doing all right.
I feel like, I mean, you can't see my reaction because obviously we're recording our webcams separately right now.
Yeah, we can't see each other.
If you could see the face that I was making when you were trying to describe it to me, it's so funny because I'm young, like I'm in sort of somewhat understanding of where this community comes from. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to picture the fact that your parents know that you do this.
Oh yeah.
And you trying to explain what you just said to your mom and dad and just be like, no. So you guys don't get it.
I've literally had discussions with them where they've asked me about what this stuff is, and I've had to like try and explain it and try to explain. And again, in the video, I'm not as negative as a lot of people are, because I'm trying to be like open-minded about stuff like this. And just in general, like, if I have a negative opinion about something, I want to be able to like back it up and have reason for it. So I try to like be pretty neutral about a lot of things. But even with that, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of weird. And then I've had to like explain to my parents where they're like, hey, what is this word that you keep using? And I'm like, I don't want to explain. You guys, this is...
Wait, what was the word?
Oh, it's the L word. It's lolicon.
Okay, got it.
I keep using that word.
So you were asked about it, like at a dinner table.
Yeah, I think my dad was like driving me somewhere or something. We were like in a car together, so I couldn't escape. And he was like, "So I watched your newest video, and you go on a really long tangent about children in animated shows." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how to explain this." Like, and I just ended up like basically reciting the entire video back to him because it was still fresh in my mind, so I could like cite things that I'd read about it. But
you're just you're staring out the window. You're just like, oh,
yeah, take a long drag of a cigarette.
Dude, that's my fucking nightmare. I have two like Hispanic immigrant parents. I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't even know where to fucking start. I don't know how you. I have so.
My parents don't even know like video games. The newest video game my dad knows about is like any N64 game because that's what he had. And my mom doesn't even know what video games are in general. So like any of my channel has just been complete nonsense to them. And then when I start getting into like even deeper weird stuff, they're like, "We support your channel. Like we're always here for you, but I don't know what's going on." But they are very supportive about it. Like they're just kind of like, yeah, they don't care about what I do so much as like that I'm somewhat successful at it now.
Yeah.
But like explaining that to them, and I haven't explained my channel to literally anyone else. I have like very close friends that I don't tell I have a YouTube channel because they might actually like be offended by what I make. Because you look at
like you're friends with lolly fans. Is that the situation that's going on?
No. I've literally, I think there's a couple friends of mine do know about my channel, and I've told them. And if you literally Google Lextorias or just look up anything related to that, fucking fan service boob thumbnail shows up as the top result. And anytime I've had to like show someone that, they're like, what videos do you make again? Like, what is this? Like, this is, again, it relates to like, you can see in the background, I have my couch. Like anytime I invite someone over, they're just like, "Why do you have a giant couch and like a camera pointed at it and a bunch of studio lights? Like, what do you do again?" It's very, yeah.
You just got to make it more mysterious. You just got to be like, "Don't ask. Don't ask. I can't. It's an NDA. I can't discuss."
Yeah, I can't describe
what happens in this room stays in this room, unfortunately. I do. It's kind of interesting. I've had the same mindset as you. I kept it super, super private. The fact that I ever made videos for the first year that I ever was doing it. And I think I didn't even tell my parents. They just found out because I had the plaque sent home, like home, not like where I'm in college.
Yeah.
And my mom was just like, "What is this?" And I was like, oh no. Because the last video that I made before that was my Chainsaw Man video. And I'd say 70% of that video is just weird fetishes that people have about that manga.
Yeah,
and
that's another one you can't really explain away.
Yeah. My parents have never confronted me about it, though. I think that's why I find it so funny that your parents ask about the things you've talked about. They know what it is. They know how to get to it. I'm just kind of hoping they haven't seen it, but there's a total possibility that might not be the case. Honest to God, I have no clue. Same thing goes for my friends. I only have like very close friends, or I'd say I have like two best friends that I told them right away. And, after that, I just basically told people I did video editing, which is probably like the furthest thing from what I actually do.
Yeah, it's very difficult to like hide or like try to like come up with a related thing, because as soon as you say anything related to like video production, people are like, "Oh, YouTuber," or like, "Oh, porn." Like that's the only two routes you can go.
There's two wolves inside me.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like I definitely it's starting to get to a point, and I'm wondering if this is the same case for you, where it's almost impossible to avoid it. I also made the same mistake of using my gamer tag as my channel name.
Yeah.
So I used to go by Alex, and when I used to play like Rocket League and Valorant, and all my friends at any point could have looked me up, which they ended up doing, and that's how like a lot of them ended up finding out. People from my school found out. I got like a DM on Instagram from somebody I've never met, but they were like, "Hey, I went to your high school," and I was like, I'm deleting my Instagram. I I can never confront with that. So I'm curious, is that going to be the same way for you forever, or do you plan on just opening it up, being like, I'm a YouTuber? Like, do you ever plan on announcing it?
Yeah, I think I'm not. If someone does find out, because I have had people find out when I like didn't tell them, and if someone does find out, I don't mind it. A lot of the time, it is just I don't know. It feels weird to talk about when it's not because the level that I'm doing it, I've had people reach out to me. I've had an old high school friend message me and be like, hey man, like we should connect. You're a YouTuber now. And I was like, that's weird. Don't talk to me. You shoved me into a locker in grade 10. We're not doing this. But like, I don't really mind. I just want to make sure that like, if someone does find out, that it's a good thing, I guess, or like something that's not going to like haunt me, like again, with my fan service video. So like, I feel like if I have a catalog of videos where you can see like, oh, he's like actually making like pretty, not normal, but like a pretty diverse array of things that have a good amount of views, then I could like tell anyone and just be like, hey, check this out. Like, look at what I do. But like a lot of my videos have just gotten so weird and like strange that it's very hard to like know that someone's going to watch it if I tell them about my channel. And I just don't like thinking about that yet. But about horror
is
games,
around. Yeah, exactly. And I love how you started off with that, and then I love how like the reality is that by the end of it, the real horror is underpaid fucking video game developers, and I just thought that was so funny. And that's like the last third of the video.
Yeah, it just turns into like an anti-capitalist rant at some point. It just becomes like unhinged, like pro-worker propaganda.
It's good because I like the fact that you do that, because it must be funny to see some of the comments or some people who have a certain reaction to those videos, and you can just tell right away who watched it entirely and who didn't, just because it's like, did you see where it really goes? Like, did you get what like,
yeah. I can tell who watched that video entirely, because in the first 30 seconds of the video, I'm talking about like how influential horror games are in general, just as like an opener. And one of the things I said is that Resident Evil 4 basically invented the over-the-shoulder third-person camera angle. And so like Gears of War and stuff wouldn't have existed without Resident Evil 4, because it like popularized it so much, which is not true that it invented it, because there were like over-the-shoulder games before that. I was more meaning to say that it was like, I don't know, it popularized it, right? And it was the specific style that it used. I've gotten like 1,000 comments of people just being like, actually, Grand Theft Auto 3 had an over-the-shoulder camera angle if you aim down sights back in 1997, and just like a bunch of stuff like that that's like completely unrelated to the video, which is very funny to get, because it's the first 30 seconds, and then immediately after that, I go on, I never talk about it ever again. So like, getting comments from people about that, or like random specific parts in the beginnings of my videos before they get weird, is like, I just feel like it should be common sense to like watch an entire video before you leave a comment about something. Like, that just seems like what I would do. And no one who watches my videos does that, because I mention like one thing, or like start off my waifu video. Literally at the end of the waifu video, I made a point to list off every waifu I found while researching it, so that no one could make a comment about them, because that would annoy me if you're like, oh, what if you didn't mention X character from this show that I like? So I just listed off like literally like 100 plus waifus at the very end of the video. And still in the beginning of the video, people are like, oh, but what about this character? I really like her. And it's like, yeah, how long do you want the video to be? Like, do you want me to talk about every anime character ever conceived? Because like, that's what it would be if I did this. You gotta like cut it off somewhere.
There's just like a certain point where it's too much. It's too much for me to try to overcorrect and over justify every single statement that I make. Like, it's just like, listen, man, sometimes I just, especially because I feel like the amount of thinking that you're doing on every single detail, it would just be impossible for every single thing to not have like a tiny bit of an error. Like, there's a certain weight that I started to feel the more I made videos. Like back in the day, I made a video about a manga that was coming out, and I was talking about how it kind of reminded me of the anime Baki. Have you ever watched Baki?
I haven't actually seen it yet. I want to.
In the video, I call it Baki, and that's just because. Oh yeah, see, you already know where this is going. Like, because every single YouTuber or person that I've had it referenced to me was one was Super Eye Patch Wolf, and he's Irish, and the other one was on Trash Taste, and I think it was either Joey or Connor. So one's British and the other one's Australian. So I only heard the enunciation of the title from them, so I just assumed that's how it goes. Like that's what people call it. And it's the same boat. To this day, I still get hundreds of comments that are like, "Well, actually, like how dare you call it?" And it's just like, the video is a year and a half old. What do you want me to do now? Like I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, and that's another thing is I forget which video of mine. It was my open worlds video. I said just offhandedly like New Vegas, a Bethesda game, and people are like, well, actually Bethesda was the producer, but it was made by Obsidian, another company. And someone commented that, and I pinned the comment at the top of the comment section. So I'm like, and I replied to it too, being like, thank you for pointing this out. No one else needs to comment about it now because this one person has, with like thousands of likes. And then people just kept commenting it. Like they didn't even read the top comment that's like right under the box where you type a comment in. Like, I don't know how you'd even avoid that.
Yeah, you have to go around it. You have to like close your eyes for a couple seconds and then be like, actually, did you know that Bethesda, like you just wouldn't, I just feel like certain people are out to announce the fact that they know these things.
They just want to like get one up or like, like prove that they know this. It's like,
it's just like who like, do you want a cookie? I don't exactly know who exactly it's for.
Well, and a lot of go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say a lot of my videos also just have questions as the titles, and so many people just comment like answering the question. That's the main thing with the horror games video. That video goes into. It's the title is why do horror games stop being scary, but it's not necessarily just about like why a game gets less scary as it goes on, or like why horror games today aren't as scary as they used to be. But it's literally like why across an entire horror franchise is the last game always like way less scary than the first one. And that's like the specific angle that it takes. And I go very clearly into that in the video. And then every comment is just like, well, horror games are scarier because like devs don't want to do this. And I'm like, I said that in the video. Like I've literally answered that point. We agree on this, but like you didn't see that part. So it's just a bunch of people trying to like answer the question of the title. But it's like, if I made the title of the video a question, like the video is about me answering that question. Like I wouldn't not answer that. It's not like I'm clickbaiting you. And a bunch of people just like never seem to see that.
It seems like you definitely get, I mean, I've seen based on just the growth of your channel, I think there's clearly a positive reaction that a lot of people have towards a lot of the stuff that you make, but it does seem like you like to tackle topics that might not be pleasing to everyone.
I like to answer stuff that doesn't have an immediate answer to me. So like it just opens itself up to that. I've just kind of gotten used to the fact now that my comments are like pedantic because that's what I'm doing. You know, it's like it invites it in when I'm the one who's like trying to like be the one to solve an argument that doesn't necessarily have a clear-cut answer.
You used a smart word there. What does pedantic mean?
Oh, just like overly focused on it's the actually. If you're actually, you're being pedantic. Like
got it.
That's just what that means.
Got it. No, I'm not a STEM major, so anything with like more than those syllables, I'm not familiar with it.
Hey man, I dropped out of college, so like we don't gotta.
When did you drop out because of YouTube, or what was the reasoning behind that?
I dropped out during the pandemic because my school wasn't a big school and they just laid off like a bunch of teachers and like stopped doing stuff basically. Like it was really hard to get into classes, so I just focused on like work and stuff. And then once my YouTube channel took off, I was like, well, maybe I don't need to do this. Like maybe I actually hate programming and computer science. Maybe that's not what I want to do.
Oh, dude, you were a CS major?
Yeah. Got well, technically 4 years into it because I was doing an extra year to like take my time with it, and even then I just got like burnt out programming.
There's like a certain reaction that I always have when people tell me that they drop out when it's almost like the last stretch. Part of it is I think the logical parent, every parent would be like, why would you do that? But in my eyes, I kind of see it like, oh, they're really about it. If you're willing to, no, like even if you're about to do the last stretch and you're still willing to drop out, it's like this guy is gonna do it. Like it's not a on the fence decision. I feel like.
Yeah, well, for me, it was just burnout. It was just like programming in an environment that they very much try to teach you will be like, okay, this is exactly what it's going to be like when you get a job programming. Like, this is what you're going to do all day, basically. And just being like, this isn't fun. I don't like doing this. And then thinking like, why would I want to pay to continue to learn to do something that I wouldn't like? And like, I just had a very long conversation with myself where I'm like, yeah, I just want to like pursue what I want to do. And that's when I started like really focusing on YouTube and stuff, because that at the time was pretty much the only thing that I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life and be content with doing it. I don't think I could do a programming job into my 40s. Like, I just wouldn't have a good time with that. And it seems like if I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life, like, why would I continue learning it?
Dude, the feeling is so fucking mutual. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it sucks. Though there is, I literally have 1 year left. So there is that thought in the back of my mind of like, oh, you should just like finish it, or like, oh, you should just do this. And it's just, yeah, it's,
I mean, the nice thing is you can go back to it whenever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, YouTube, well, at the time I wasn't even like fully doing YouTube, but I was like trying to find something that I want to do that is a passion of mine, is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm never going to be like in my 20s and have like a safety net where I can like, you know, like make mistakes again. But I can definitely just go back to school and finish and do the safe thing like at any point.
Wait, so how old are you?
I am 23.
Oh, yeah, dude, you're fucking 1 year older than me. Oh, God. Oh, God. It's coming soon. See, I'm a junior right now, so I get to have like the blissful ignorance of pretending like that adult life is not about to approach me soon. And I think about that all the time, just because especially before I started making videos, I had this perception as if once you get 100,000 subscribers, you're a trillionaire. Like you have Lamborghinis, you have a mansion, like you're good to be able to do this full time. And I think, well, I guess you would call it like commentary / video essay type of videos that we make. And that leads to a much less frequent upload schedule.
Yep.
And that also makes the odds of you being able to do it full time just near impossible because of that. And I'm wondering how has that been from your POV?
Yeah, so like I think what any YouTuber figures out is like subscribers are completely meaningless to doing it as a career. And it's more consistently, it's like an amount of monthly views that you get have to be consistent. And that amount of monthly views is so much higher than I ever thought it would be. Where I'm like, oh, if I wanted to like do this as a career, like make this amount of money or whatever, like I'd need to get this many views per month. Like that's insane. And then, yeah, like I was super lucky. So I had dropped out of university, and not even like officially dropped out, where I was like, oh, I'll get back to it later. And then I just never have. But I went and started a job, and I worked full time at a hotel overnight. So I would start at 11 p.m. and work until 7 a.m., which was the worst. And then I worked that job full time, started doing YouTube. And while I was doing that job, which I hated more than anything in my life, I hated that job. While I was doing that, I released my fan service video and got 1 million views on that, 1 million views on my horror games video. My channel blew up from like a couple thousand subscribers to like pretty much where it is right now. And I made more than I had made like in a month at that job from like one video. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just quitting this place. I don't care if I can do YouTube full time. I don't care if this is like sustainable. I just don't want to work here anymore. I just need an excuse to leave. If
it wasn't going to be the video, it was going to be something else.
Yeah, I would have like quit that place even if I just like, I don't know, had any excuse that would have not left me homeless essentially.
Yeah.
So when YouTube blew up, I'm like, all right, I quit this place. I'm just going to try and make YouTube work. And luckily YouTube has worked for me so far and like continued to like obviously not be as good as the 2 million views that I got in a month, but like it's been able to like keep me up. And I'm just keep focusing on it because it's a really weird thing where it's a very rare job where there's almost like a direct correlation to the amount of effort you put in to like how successful you are, like career wise, where it's like, it's very hard to lose subscribers as like a newer channel on YouTube. So like, it's just the more videos I upload and the harder I work on them, generally the better my channel does. And so
what's your feeling with it now? It's been almost a year now since those 2 videos came out, right? It's been like 10 months?
It's been, I think that happened in like August or September. So having been like over half a year, it's one, really weird because there's the constant, the YouTube, I haven't uploaded enough videos for the fan service video to have left my like 10 out of 10 thing that YouTube gives you. Mm-hmm. So every video I upload is like never going to be a 1 out of 10 unless I hit 1 million views again. So constantly YouTube's like, yeah, that one sucked. You didn't get 1 million views. And it's like, well, that's not a realistic, like I don't expect that to happen again. But like, yeah, so like seeing like having a massive spike in views, you can look at my channel. My views are all over the place. It's so strange. I have like 1 million views and then 10,000 and then like 500,000 and then like 30,000. Like it's because I just experiment with the types of videos that I make. And now I finally honed in on like what I do, what I'm successful at, what I enjoy making is like types of videos. I've done videos where it's like, I just want to try out a concept and then it doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't expect it to work. I don't know what I thought would happen. So now it's much more consistent and I'm able to actually think of like now I just recently posted on my little community tab and on Patreon, like I want to make 2 videos a month. Like I know I can make it. I know my limits that I can do this. So like this is a consistent thing I'm able to do like as a job now, as opposed to before where I was just kind of like throwing videos out and like not really knowing, oh, I'll do an 1.5 hour long video on a random topic that's like way too deep for anyone to care about. And then like a 20-minute video of me talking about a video game or something, like just completely not related.
If you could see the face I just made when you said 2 uploads a month, bro, that's like, yeah. I don't even think when I started my channel, I was reaching those numbers. I think the fastest I ever got to was once a month. Lately, it's been a video every quarter of a year. Like it's getting really, really bad for me.
Yeah, that was my thing, was like when I started to do YouTube, I didn't know that I wanted to do like video essay type videos. And even when I made those, I was like I made an 1.5 hour long review of Elden Ring. And I was like, oh, I'll just make that once and like never do anything like that again. Cause I just happened to enjoy the game and have a lot of thoughts on it. And then that was the first video on my channel that blew up. It got like a couple 100,000 views. And YouTube, when you go to the little audience tab in the analytics, is like, here's what your viewers also watch. And it was just a wall of Elden Ring. And I'm like, but I made the one video. Like, I don't want to talk about it again. Like, what would I even do?
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing with the fan service video. Like that video blew up and YouTube's like, hey, make more like anime videos. Like people who watch you also watch Mother's Basement and like all these other people. Like you should just do what they do. And I'm like, I want to make a video game video. Like, I like that too. And so I've almost had to like fight against YouTube where they keep trying to like pigeonhole me and then I do something completely different. And YouTube very obviously like punishes you for it, or at least like doesn't know what to do with it.
And like, I guess you're almost in this weird position where it's like you're bringing audiences from so many different sectors of the internet that I guess it's led you. I mean, the great thing is that fortunately you get to talk about whatever you want, but I guess the thing is it's almost like you have to tackle what do these people want. I remember in the last in the last call that I had with Danny Lines in Motion, we were talking about, you know, you can appeal to people who are really, really deep into it. If you talk about Elden Ring, you can go really, really far into the depths of something that a big fan of Elden Ring would like. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the normie audience. Like there's people who aren't that big into it. Like, is that something that that they would even find remotely interesting? And that's a $1 trillion question. It's so fucking hard for any of us to be able to answer that, because otherwise we would have 20 trillion subs, you know? And I feel like I get where the stress is coming from, but I feel like fortunately enough for you, your channel is so new that I still feel like you have so much wiggle room to figure that out. And I mean, as someone who's been a fan of either like literally whatever type of content you make, I love the horror like video game video, but I also love the anime waifus series. I'd say I'm jealous. I'm kind of jealous of that position that you're in right now.
I think I'm jealous of what you do because your videos, like I just look at the videos tab and even the thumbnails are like so perfectly consistent that I'm like, damn, I wish
disagree.
I had some.
I have to hard disagree, bro. I have such, I feel like thumbnails. Okay, dude, I could riff about thumbnails for fucking infinity. It does not. Well, number one, you make beautiful thumbnails. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
You can't see my webcam. I'm chucking flowers over onto your side. Okay, you make fucking amazing thumbnails. But also, Photoshop sucks. That software can suck my dick, bro. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's really tough to make thumbnails that, for me, I've never thought of my thumbnails as like YouTuber thumbnails because I know how easy it would be to put my face doing the soy jack meme and get an extra 100,000 views.
What is soy jack?
I'll do it on webcam. You can't see, but where they're doing like this. The audience will love that one. Where they're like pointing behind them and like their mouth is an O.
Oh, I see this. Okay, yeah. Okay.
You can use mine in the thumbnail that I just did on camera.
Yeah, I got you.
But no, it's so easy to like make YouTuber quote unquote thumbnails, where it's like a face or it's like the big red text that's like he didn't ... or like whatever. It's very hard to make thumbnails that look stylistically appealing, or where I'm like that looks nice to me, like it looks like a well composed image. I always compare my thumbnails more to like Netflix thumbnails, or like try to at least, where it's like you look at a Netflix thumbnail and it's like, oh, this is just like this looks like a box art for something that I could like very easily see, as opposed to like, someone's face or like an arrow pointing or like all the stuff that like a lot of YouTube thumbnails that work really well do, but they just look kind of gross to me.
Yeah, I just feel like you have to do this balance of you want to make something that's quote unquote artsy, but you also want to. It's marketing, right? Your video, you have to market the video. And part of me is kind of wondering when you made the thumbnail for the fan service one, guys, anybody that's watching this right now, just type in Lextorias's fan service video and just look at the thumbnail, because just when I had this in my recommended,
just in YouTube or Google, type fan service one word and it'll pop up. It's like, yeah, that image is very famous.
That's like at any point when this thing was in my recommended, it's impossible to avoid it, which I mean, kudos to you. I wonder if you found that image or you were looking at like after the finished product of it and you were like, oh boys, I did it. I fucking did it.
So making that video, I'm like, the thumbnail for this is obvious. It's very obvious what I need to do here. The trouble with it is I really wanted that video to not get demonetized or like just instantly taken off of YouTube. Because I think if you're too risque, they'll even just like delete the video, I've seen. And so I was like, okay, I need to find boobs for a thumbnail that aren't risque. And like, that was really hard. So I literally found an image of like a fully clothed, like no skin showing drawing that someone made. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. Like I can do my editing to this and it shouldn't be bad. And I did a bunch of blurring in the video and stuff, and then it just still got demonetized. But like,
so that video got demonetized?
Yeah, demonetized, surprisingly not age restricted, fingers crossed. So people can still watch it, which is weird. But it got to like 999,000 views or something like that, and then got demonetized, and then spent like 4 months crossing the million mark. It was getting like 200 views a day or something like that after it got axed. It was like, YouTube eventually caught on to what I was doing. Yeah, which is funny because they manually greenlit it. I uploaded it. It got automatically demonetized. I appealed it. They're like, oh, it's actually good to go. And then they just said like, oh, never mind. And I couldn't appeal it again.
There was no reason provided for why, like what
they just
give
the general like sexual nudity guidelines, but like they didn't give any points in the video or like tell me it was the thumbnail or anything. And the first time they did greenlight it, so I was like, okay, this video is like approved by a person, like it tells me that. And then the second time when they do it, you can't even appeal. So like even if they did tell me something, like there would be nothing I could do. It was like a super weird situation.
I've been on this like lucky streak where I just haven't every time I always pray to God that I just know it. I just know it's going to happen at some point. So I've just been praying that for the day that, you know, this thing that you work really hard on could be up to a month or however long it takes, and just bam, like immediately after a week it's been out, like it just immediately gets demonetized. I haven't had that happen yet. I've gotten one video age restricted, and it was like my most PG video, and
which one?
It's one where I make like a Shonen Jump starter pack, and after doing some thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it's because I say this manga will make you shit, piss, and cum at the same time. And I think, if I were to guess, I'm just picturing back on the script for that video. I'm pretty sure that's the reason for it. But what I'm confused is I've said so much worse. Like I've done a 5-minute segment about blueberry fetishes. Like I feel like the logistics here aren't really adding up. It's like,
yeah, what YouTube considers is weird. That's also the only video of mine that is not fully monetized, which is even weirder. Because in one of my recent videos where I look at random anime, like I look at like a hentai basically.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. That was
the
first one, right?
I blurred the crap out of it, but you can still make out a lot of stuff, and YouTube is just completely fine with it. And then in every video I make, I just swear constantly because I just do that normally. But like YouTube never cared about any of that, even with the new like swearing rules. I tried censoring a video, and I'm like, oh, that just sounds gross, so I'm not going to do it unless it gets demonetized.
Yeah.
But like, that fan service one was like the only one. And I try to do as much censoring as possible, but like when the video is about it, there's only so much I can do.
What, I do want to ask you I haven't seen your first video, but and I didn't mean that like as an insult. It was leading up to a question, but I meant that as in like, I was wondering, where did you find the idea to do the setup for your videos now? You have a couch and you have a green screen behind you, and you show your face through, I'd say 95% of it. Mm-hmm. Where was the point where you started doing that? And then how did you, like, one, who inspired you to do that? And also like at what point or at what video were you like, I feel like this is my way of doing it, or this is the way I want to like make the aesthetic of the way I talk about these things?
Yeah. So when like I first made my channel, I thought I would do completely faceless. I'm like, I'm just going to do completely faceless, like voiceover type videos. There's no reason to show my face in like any of the videos that I wanted to make. And then in my very early videos, it was still just like, it's basically the same setup I have now at my desk here. I was recording some of the videos, and I had a webcam that I owned personally. And I was like, oh, I should just set it up and see what it looks like. And I think my idea early on was like, yeah, I kind of want to show my face early on just because there's no reason not to. And it makes it a lot easier to edit because I can just show my face for a lot of the video and don't have to like put clips or anything to like keep people interested. And then my original first couple of videos, I didn't have any green screen. So it was just me sitting at a desk basically. And then eventually I would a lot of the times show like a graphic on screen or something like that. And I'm like, I really want like text on screen and to show images and clips like while I'm talking. And it looks really weird to just have it in like a corner of the video. And someone I had watched a lot that I'm sure inspired probably every YouTuber you're ever going to talk to on this series in some way is Nikki Jakey. Yeah. Cause he, like his videos going up or like him blowing up into success is like almost like an era starting on YouTube where like anyone who does videos with a face cam in them or like videos on gaming or just in general has like seen him because he just changed like how people kind of do videos like that. And I know so many people that got green screens because of him. There's another YouTuber I've talked to called Internet Pit Stop, who
I was about to say, yeah,
he literally is just like, I'm Nikki Jakey now. Like I do the same thing. Like it's what he wants to do. And I originally started to do that. So I was just like, oh, I'm going to stand in front of a green screen and going to do all that. Like going to figure out what it looks like later. Cause I don't have any idea like of the composition that goes into like a green screen video. And Nikki Jakey and Internet Pit Stop do a great job of integrating themselves into scenes, and like they have a reason to like kind of stand where they stand or like do what they do. And I just didn't find anything like that. A lot of it was just still shots of me standing in front of a green screen that looked kind of awkward to me. So eventually I was like, okay, what can I incorporate into the green screen that's going to like look interesting? And literally I just own this futon that's like $100 from IKEA that's absolutely terrible to sit on and completely uncomfortable. But I was like, what if I just put that on and like sat in front of it, and it looked kind of cool to me. And then it just took off from there because I realized that I liked the look of sitting on a couch, because a lot of my videos are very much just me talking to people about stuff I like anyway. So it's a very like casual conversation I'm having basically. And it's like you're going over to a friend's house and I'm just explaining to you like something that I recently found out about. So it just ended up like coincidentally working.
I love the feeling that, and I mean, as a viewer of your channel, I do get the feeling that I'm at like a sleepover and one of the friends is just rambling on about this thing that they haven't gotten anybody else the chance to like tell them to. And you're especially with the length of your videos, it's like you're about to strap in for sure. You're about to strap into some deep shit.
Yeah. And that's why, that was one of the reasons I even started doing YouTube in the first place, is I just love talking and like explaining things to people. And originally I thought I'd be good at it like unscripted, or like, in a Let's Play, or like a lot of people I had seen do like Moist Critical type videos where it's just you sit in front of a camera and you talk about something. Mm-hmm. And then I very quickly realized that I just completely lose the plot instantly if that's what happens, if I'm just left unscripted without like a topic in mind. So I was like, okay, I need to script the videos. But even when I script my videos, I very much write it as if I'm just talking. I try to make it as unscripted sounding as possible, or like as naturalistic. Like I literally write the word like into my script sometimes to make it sound like I'm actually saying it. And it feels so weird because I see a lot of people who do more like elegantly scripted videos and they do not do that. I'm just like, am I a hack? Like, this doesn't feel like I should be writing a script like this, when I'm purposefully almost making it worse to sound more natural.
Oh, dude, you've got me so giddy to start asking you things about writing. Well, one, I think it's what you do makes sense. I don't think a lot of people know this, but I do the exact same thing. Whenever I write, I try to write the way that I talk, and the way that I talk is I try to achieve I try to achieve the same goal that you do, which is that I want to give the casual feeling. I don't want to make things feel eloquent or like it's like a thesis statement. I try to I try to do the exact same thing that you do, but also I want to ask you about your writing, because I've seen that, like I've seen some stuff that you posted onto Twitter and on your community tabs about behind the scenes, but now that I also have seen your Patreon, I saw that you wrote your script for Anime Waifus in 2 weeks, and that video is like an hour 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's like 15,000 words, I want to say.
Oh my fucking God. And I just want to, I want to ask you about that, but I also want to see if you share the same feeling as me, because earlier we talked about how there's always going to be somebody out there to correct every single little detail. No matter what you say, there's going to be somebody who has some form of input that, like what you just said, was factually wrong. And I didn't notice that I had that issue until I started to get more exposure and I started to make more and more videos. And after each video, it almost felt like I started to develop this weight of every word that I was writing into my script was going to be seen by somebody. And so that meant I had to be more careful. Like I had to double check. I had to do more research. I had to do this. And I had to and the writing just took me longer and longer and longer and longer. And I think for that Chainsaw Man video, it took me 2 months, like maybe a month to 2 months to finish writing that. And so I'm just curious, as for someone like you who uploads a lot more frequently, but also makes videos that are much longer than mine, what is your solution to that? Because this is the segment where like I want to leech that from you. Like this is just a segment for me where like I really want to learn that from you, because that blows my mind. Like I don't know how you can write that quickly and still have the weight of, well, actuallys and fucking, what was the word we used? Pedantic? Like people that are going to be pedantic about it.
Yeah, it's so I think one of my things is that and I don't know if I've said this anywhere. I think I said this in like a Q&A somewhere. But I remember a while ago thinking about like a lot of people just ask me in general, like, how do I be a YouTuber? How do I do this? How do I start, like, get started? How do I be successful is the big one. And there's a great video by someone, Doug. I don't know if you've heard of them. Mm-hmm. There's like a Twitch streamer, does game stuff, but he has an hour-long video of just talking about like basically answering all those questions for himself, like how to be a big Twitch streamer or YouTuber or whatever. And one of the things he said is something I've thought about for a really long time, which is everyone has just things that they're naturally like good at, or not even good at in the sense that you're better than other people, but just things that come very naturally to you and you can do without even thinking about it. Like it's not work to do it. And everyone has a couple things like that. And in order to be successful in anywhere, but especially if you're doing like YouTube, it's just to find what those things are for yourself and then just make that the focus of your channel. And I think that really resonated with me because I was trying to think of like what I'm good at, and what I'm exceedingly good at least in terms of it comes very easy to me, is just writing a ton of stuff. Like not even necessarily like writing out super in-depth things, but I can just write out a ton of words without thinking about it. Whether it's like in high school or college, I used to write like short stories and stuff for like creative writing classes. I can write like 2,000 words in like a couple hours. Like it's just nothing to me. It won't be good or like final draft worthy, but I can just write out a ton of stuff and do research and be able to just like spew out as much information that comes to my brain. And so I just try to like adapt that to my YouTube channel, and just like I realized that I was probably going to be better at making longer videos because I'm much better at writing out a ton of script than I am at editing down a lot of script. So I just make my videos like include everything that I've thought of and like try to not edit unless it's like something really stupid that I was including in there. So for me, it just comes very naturally to just write out 8,000, 15,000. The latest video that I'm working on now was originally 20,000 words before I edited it down. And this one I've edited down because it doesn't need to be that long. It's down to like 9,000, I want to say. And I just know that I can just write as much as possible and then kind of like figure the rest out later. Which does suck because a lot of my videos are very in-depth or very trying to be informational in a way that people are going to correct me on, or people are going to like trust what I have to say. If I say this thing is a fact, then they're just going to believe me or try to prove me wrong. Like they're going to take what I say as like absolute in either case. And so when I am just like spewing out as much information as comes to my brain, or like rewriting whole Wikipedia articles to include information that I thought was interesting, I do have to really focus on, if I say something as a fact, I should at least be able to like back it up or have a source or some ability to be like, I'm not the one who came up with this information. Like this guy is, and he has a PhD. So don't talk to me about it. But in terms of like, writing a lot or like making my videos super long or like uploading frequently, it's just something that's come very natural to me and like playing to my strengths basically. Though I still like, my recent thing is I really suck at pronunciations. I make a lot of videos on anime and I cannot pronounce Japanese at all. So I'll just write down full Japanese names, never look into how they're supposed to be pronounced, and then just basically make it up on the spot when I'm reading the script. And so in my waifu's video, a bunch of people pointed out like, hey, none of these words were pronounced correctly. And so something I'm trying to do in my newer video is like actually find out how the words are pronounced before I say them out loud, which is probably a good idea. And just, try to find out like if I'm saying something, is it actually true, or am I just kind of writing it down because I read it somewhere and I'm just spewing it out as my own, like this must be true because I think it is kind of thing.
I mean, I have a solution for you actually. As someone who does primarily videos on Japanese comic books, and sometimes these stories have abilities and character names and a bunch of shit that I know I'm just going to butcher. The solution, and hear me out, it's going to blow your mind. I just refer to it as this or that person. I just show,
Yeah.
I say, if it's like a name of a manga, I just say this, and then I show the manga, and then they can pronounce it however the fuck they pronounce it. I don't give a shit. Or
Yeah,
if it's
that's
like
smart.
if it's a character, I'm just like, this guy's a fucking weirdo, this guy sucks, or this guy's the hero. I just say that, and then I don't have to worry about any of that, because I don't want to relive the fucking backy problem that I have. I'm just not going to go through it again. I'm so sick and tired of all those comments. And I do want to ask you, in terms of the backlash that you might have gotten for the, I guess one, it's kind of funny how you say that writing is your strength. You're another Alex, but you're my reverse Flash. You are the polar opposite of me in terms of strengths. Writing does not work. Like, it just doesn't, the mind to keyboard does not connect with me at all. And it's easily, I feel like my strength is definitely the visual storytelling that I do.
And that's my weakness. So yeah, we're direct opposites.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to determine which one of us is the yellow Flash. But
we could team up. Like, have you seen? Do you watch Eddie Burback?
Yeah, I watch him.
So he has a channel with his brother that's just called Burback because it's both their last names. We could just start a joint channel called Alex. That's just me writing and you editing, and it's the perfect video.
We become like a super channel.
Alex and Alex, yeah.
We just hire like an entire team of Alexes, and they do each segment of the video. So there's somebody who does the Photoshop. There's someone who does the marketing. We have a sponsorship guy, like he does the emails for who does the ad reads and stuff. And it's just the entire squadron of Alexes.
Just named out. And then at the end, and then we do we have like a show together, like a behind the scenes every month or whatever, but we only refer to each other by our first names. So it's just 10 people in a room calling each other Alex, and no one can tell who's talking.
I need to ask you the most important question. Are you, now, you gotta tell me this. Are you a real Alex, or are you one of those fake Alexes? Like, are you an Alexander?
I am an Alexander.
Oh,
yeah,
we can't
full
be
Alexander.
Friends. That's crazy. We can't be friends.
And my full name, which I'll never reveal on the internet for obvious reasons, but I have 2 middle names and a very long last name. So my full name is like, I sound like royalty because it's just like a bunch of words. I have the longest name ever.
Yeah, it's just like enunciated with a British accent.
Yeah, unless you're on the internet, because my Twitter handle or my username on Twitter is just Alex Torius, and I've gotten a bunch of people now that think that's my actual last name.
That's a pretty dope last name.
It works, so yeah, I'll use that. But this is very funny. I had someone say like, "Hello, Mr. Torius," and like one of those fake sponsorship emails that I get every week, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, dude, I get so many people that think my first name is not my first name. They can't make the connection that like my name is an enunciation of my real name, so they'll just call me Mr. Ah or Mr. Lex.
Mr. Lex, yeah.
Yeah, but the ah is the weird one where I'm just like they're hey ah, could you read? And it's just like, what am I, a baby noise? Why are you referring to me as ah? But
yeah,
I guess
could be a weird name. I don't know. Don't even know who would. Could be short for something.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. It's a mystery. I mean, I'm willing to. I'll bleep this out, but my full name is also long as fuck. It's because I have Hispanic parents, so the what's it called? Our last names just get conjoined whenever they're married. So I actually have like 6 last names and no middle name. I don't have like a middle name at all. Are you? What is your ethnicity? Are you European? Like, why do you have such a long last name?
I am Ukrainian.
I see.
So I have a very long Ukrainian unpronounceable last name. And my family is very, like I'm named after, my first name Alex is after my grandfather. And then both of my middle names are like other relatives' first names. So I just carry that all with me. Just have a very long straight, like I think every person in my family has 2 middle names because they just love like keeping them all together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even if you doxed yourself with your real name, it'd just take too long. Nobody would be able to put in the letters, and just
your driver's
license is just infinity. Like, it goes off the page.
It literally, my driver's license is like several lines long. It's very funny. It like doesn't format properly. I was gonna say I did, as a weird computer nerd who was like had nothing to do during the pandemic. When I started Lextorias, I got so worried about privacy and stuff because I used to be like a Linux guy that like really liked privacy and VPNs or whatever. If you Google search my real name, nothing shows up. Like there are zero results because I don't have any personal social media anymore because I don't care about that stuff. And I don't have anything online. So if you Google search my real name, there's literally nothing. It's very funny.
Has your background in computer science contributed, like, have you ever tried learning something for your videos and you were like, oh, I know how to do this because of blank? Like, has that ever happened to you yet?
So the reason I do a lot of video game stuff is because that's what I went into school to make, was video games. So I have years of experience of like video game design, and then even in my personal time I would like make prototypes of video games, learn about all of the mechanics and everything. So like speaking about video games and especially video game development, I am very confident, and I just know like the ins and outs well enough to like make videos on that, which is I don't necessarily know for like anime. So it's been kind of like a transitional thing to like try and go from one to the other.
Yeah.
But I can just speak about video games off the top of my head, like how they're produced and like how they work and like what engines they're on and stuff like that. In terms of specific programming though, it's funny you say that, because a video that I made recently was I spun a wheel for a random anime and then watched whatever it gave me. Mm-hmm. And the website I used for that is very good. Like no shade to the person who made it. It's just it's got weird limitations that I'm pretty sure they couldn't like program around or something like that. So my newest video, which I think I've just finished the script for, so I should start recording that and like put that out soon, is a sequel where I just watch random anime. And I've made my own website for that. So I made my own website where you can click a button and spin up a random anime that is like a publicly available website that I use for the video specifically, because I was like, oh, I can just program it myself. Like it's not that hard.
Where were you a week ago, bro? I needed you a week ago. I tried doing exactly what you did, but with I tried to do a series where I'm reading 30 manhwa recommendations, and the way that I did it drove my chat crazy. Because I didn't come up with a way of doing it. I didn't use a program or anything. So I just on stream would just close my eyes and then just go through the comments of recommendations, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Like I didn't. And so I resorted to using one of those like spinning the wheel generators. Like you type in every input and then it'll just select out of like 1,000 of those. I needed you a week ago, bro. You would have made my life infinitely easier.
Yeah, that was literally the original website I used had like limitations where I was like, this won't make for a good video. Just gonna do it myself, and spent like probably like a week straight just working on that website in my free time. Sadly, it is my anime list specific. Like it only works from Mal, so I don't know if manhwas or like anything would work. But
I wouldn't. How exactly are you inputting it? Is it just taking it directly from Mal, or are you inputting?
It's like literally there's an API someone made that scrapes all the information from Mal, so you can like pull entries from it, and then it just has like a randomizer built in that you can like put into a website. So if it has an entry on my anime list, I can theoretically use my website for it, but it only works for my anime list. So like I don't know how I would get other types of media. I don't know if manhwas are on my anime list, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I was just throwing it out there because you're like, I'm just from what you're saying, you're infinitely smarter than me. So I would have just assumed you would like in some way, shape, or form. There's something out there because there's a lot of like source coded just websites that have everything for anything, list generators or random generators. That I feel like a lot of people would be able to use nowadays. It's same thing with. Do you ever work with After Effects?
I very limitedly. I know you like it and work with it a lot. I do not. I am very bad at it.
There are certain cases in After Effects where you can do like some tricks using like actual coding, and I just wouldn't know. All of it's just foreign to me. I don't understand it. So a lot of it's just be copy pasting whatever the tutorial guy said.
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty good with most software that I use for video creation. After Effects is like the one I don't touch because it's just the only one I haven't learned. So to like learn it from scratch now, it makes me feel like a baby. And I've been editing with Premiere since I was like 15, so that's like second nature to me.
Yeah.
So to go from one to the other is like, oh, I'm completely out of my element. Literally the only thing I've used After Effects for recently was my waifu's video has like interstitial chapter markers, and I try to do like fun little After Effects bits with them, like motion tracked stuff. But that's like the most I could figure out was like entry level like animation.
Yeah. I feel like I saw your timeline. I don't remember which timeline it was for, but you posted it onto your Twitter, and it was like the prettiest premiere timeline I think I've ever seen in my life. I'll probably put it up on the screen right now somewhere, but like I think you did like a rainbow labeling for it.
Well, I saw you did that on a video.
Okay,
like
but
yours was
mine did not look like that. Like yours is,
you can just change the colors of the labels, and I just changed them to be a rainbow. Like I just did it after.
Random shit, and I just put it aside. Yours looked gorgeous. I was like, this looks like you know when I think sometimes you see the actual timelines for movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you ever seen that Have you ever seen that video?
It's
by the way,
insane. I haven't seen the video you're talking about, but I've seen the timelines for like major movies.
Oh my fucking god! If you saw the timeline that they use Premiere, they used Adobe softwares for making that film.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and the timeline for that compared to yours is just like there's there's
a lot. Well, movies are also insane because you have to add in like 50,000 audio tracks. Like I think 90% of it is audio because like every single person has their own microphone and stuff like that they have to sync up. Whereas mine, I try to make it as simple as possible. I have like the one video layer, the one audio layer, like the one music layer, and whatever I'm putting in my green screen background. So I can afford to like segment it out and like color code it. But I literally saw your tweet on, I think the Chainsaw Man video where you had like color coded and everything. And I had never used labels before then. So I was like, oh yeah, that's just something I can do. Like I'd never thought to do that. And then I started just color coding the segments and like changing it into a rainbow because I thought it looked fun.
Yeah, it looks, I don't even know. Is that sorted by chapters or did you just make it into a rainbow?
I did every video I make has like built-in chapters that I like to write in, both for like ad breaks and also just to have like a general pause, like changing subject. So like every single one of those, I just color code to a different color now, and it makes it a lot easier to go through afterwards. I've tried.
So I did that for the Chainsaw Man video just because I've never made a video that long before. There's something self-masturbatory about seeing the finished product of a timeline. I don't know why. It's so satisfying to see a timeline and it's just all pixels. Like it just looks like a fucking mess. And I knew it was going to happen that way for the Chainsaw Man video just because of how ridiculous the labor was to make it. And I've just tried to do that again and I just gave up. I just don't have the patience for it. The only reason why I use labels nowadays is whenever I'm revisiting a project, I have like a white colored label, and I use that for if I feel like the thing that I'm doing or talking about just isn't working. So if I feel like a certain minute or a certain segment isn't working, I'll completely label it as white. So whenever I go back to it, it's like it just blatantly stands out as the only thing that doesn't have color on it. And I'm curious. Sorry, excuse me. I've had like such a bad cough for 3 weeks now. And I'm curious, for your editing process, do you go through, so this goes for the writing and the editing, do you go through multiple drafts? Like do you, and also does it start from like beginning, middle, end? Do you do the intro last? Like, please, I'm getting excited just asking you about this. Please tell me all of it. Tell me all of it.
So writing and stuff like that, I literally write beginning to end. Like I'm just writing chronologically without any semblance of cohesion at first. And then afterwards I like split it up into like the clear chapters of like, okay, here's where I switch subjects. So this can be a different chapter. And then I go through, edit it, make it all sound nice, add more jokes or like whatever I think the video needs. And I do try to write my intros last now, and record them last now because I don't know where I even picked that up, but it's just a very good practice because it gives it like more energy and lets it like tie into everything else. Well, a lot of the time, like you talked about with my horror games video, or a lot of my videos just go on like weird, like they start off with one idea and then slowly morph into like something else entirely. And that is entirely from me just writing chronologically. So I'll start off the video, and then as I'm writing the video, I have like another idea, and it slowly morphs into something else. So a lot of the times when I'm watching my videos back, it's like I can literally see in the final video like where I had an idea to like put something in, and like the video starts to change direction.
Yeah.
But it is just writing beginning to end. I don't know. It is just something I do naturally, like just spew out words. So it's very hard for me to do the, like something I try to do. And I do it in my horror games video. That's one of the videos that I worked a lot harder on, to try and incorporate like almost like foreshadowing or general just like cohesion from like point to point, where it's like it almost seems like it was all planned out from the beginning when it definitely isn't. And that's almost all rewrites. And then in editing, I do pretty much the same thing, but I do passes. So I'll do, I think I literally just call it like a pacing pass. I'll just do one where I just rough chop up the video, go through it again, chop it up a little finer, cut out all the like big breaths and pauses and everything like that. Go through it again. This time I add all the stuff that's in the background of my videos, like all the green screen elements and the text on screen, and then go through it again and do all of the like audio, music elements that I'm doing. So it's just like, I just keep going through it like back and forth.
Can I take a guess on, you said that you don't know where you got the idea of writing the intro last. Can I take a guess of where you got it from?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you watch Action Button?
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, there's a bit in his Tokimeki, I think it's either in his Tokimeki Memorial video or his Cyberpunk video, where he mentioned that he started doing that, and I immediately did that too. And I think he never explained why, but I think I have a certain logic for it, and I'm curious to hear if maybe you agree with this. But I feel like if you write a script or you write for a video, like beginning, middle, and end, you're introducing a video that you don't know what it looks like. Like just how you said, you can go off on tangents and like the whole video can go in a direction you never even expected a month ago or whenever you first started writing it. And when you write the intro last, you're like, it's almost like you're introducing it to an audience and you know what entails from that. And so when you write, when you open up Google Doc and you just write those, like that first paragraph or that first page, you're writing something that you don't know what the rest looks like. I don't know if that makes sense or if you would agree with that.
No, that's pretty much exactly why I do it now. Yeah, it is weird. I literally finished, I haven't seen his Tokimeki Memorial video, but I just finished his Cyberpunk video this week. And I actually just finished his Pac-Man video today. I've been on a huge Action Button binge. He was one of the main inspirations where I wanted to make 2 videos a month, because I'm like, he makes like a 6-hour video every couple months. And in the Cyberpunk video, he talked about working 16 hours a day and like going to the hospital because of it. And I was like, really? Oh yeah, I can work. Yeah. So the Cyberpunk video is weird to talk about because it's the choose your own adventure thing that he did.
Yeah, okay, so for people that don't know this is a video this is a video made by a channel called Action Button, and it's a 1-hour intro. Let me just maybe they misheard me, so I'll say it one more time. It's a 1-hour intro to a playlist that you choose your own adventure for which other hour-long videos you want to watch. So in total he has like what do you think, like 10 hours? About Cyberpunk?
Yeah, I think the total thing's like 10, 11 hours split into 7 parts that are all like a couple hours long, hour and a half long each. And he tells you at the very beginning, is like, don't watch all of them. You can only pick a couple. And like, you have to, it's meant to like play on the fact that Cyberpunk itself is like a choose your own adventure type game.
Yeah. But, sorry, I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say like, it is very weird to talk about that video, but I did watch a segment where he talks about working 16 hours a week. And I think specifically for the Tokimeki Memorial video, because he talks about how he wants, there's always the thing of like, you can make something cheap, fast, good, and you can only pick 2. And he's like, I wanted to do all 3. And the consequence of that is that I worked so hard, I went to the hospital, where he just worked like all day for like months or something on it. And I don't know what it is. I'm like the most toxic person when it comes to like like work hours and stuff like that, where I see something like that and I'm like, man, I want to do that.
No,
I
I'm
work
the
16
same.
hours a day.
I just get like this smile in my face where I'm like, well, I smile about it now because I'm not at the end week of production of making a video. So now I get to look back and be like, oh, the memories of looking back where I was torturing myself. But during that last week, and I'm curious if this was the case for your hour plus long videos, do you also just decimate everything out of the window? Like I don't work out. I barely take care of myself. It's just I wake up and I become one with my monitor.
Yeah, it is. I'm simultaneously, like, my work schedule is so unhealthy, where it's when I'm writing a video, it's like momentum based. Like I'll start writing a video and I'll only do a couple hours a day, or I'll be in like the recording phase and I won't actually sit down in front of the camera for like a week because I'm like, oh, I don't feel up to it now, or like I'm not getting into it. And then just slowly over the course of the project, I just get more and more invested in it. And again, like by the last couple weeks, I'm literally waking up, editing, going to sleep, and not doing anything else.
Not talking to anybody, nothing, just nothing. It's so
I've had points where I've bought like microwaved meals so I don't have to leave my apartment. So I can just wake up and like stay in my apartment's basically like a 1-room studio almost. Yeah. So it is just like, I just live in this box now and work on a video for like 2 weeks straight. And then I always hate it. And I finish the video and I'm like, never want to do that again. And then I'm at the point now where I'm like midway through a video and I'm like, oh, that was the life, was just working on a video for 16 hours straight. And like,
those were the days.
Certainly ruining my health. Yeah, and I see like literally the thing. So when I did my fan service video, I was working 40 hours a week at a hotel, and then I would get off work at 7 a.m. after an 8-hour shift, work on my fan service video for another 8, 9, 10 hours, get maybe 6 hours of sleep, and then wake up, go to work, do it all again the next day. And the only thing I was listening to in my free time was I was binge watching the entirety of Casey Neistat's old vlog series. Okay. Because in those videos, he's constantly like, work harder, do more. Like, you got to just get into it. Because he was like killing himself over these videos he was making every day.
Yeah, he was uploading daily.
And he now talks about it. He's like, that was the worst point of my life. Like, I didn't do anything but this vlog or whatever. And it like almost broke apart my family. But I'm watching these vlogs and I'm like, hell yeah, I want to do this. Work 8 hours. And then I was rewarded for it because the video did well. So now it's like, well, I guess I'll never learn until I actually go to the hospital or something.
That's so funny. I feel like, I mean, part of it is definitely, we're just young. Like, we have
can do it.
Yeah, we don't have the responsibility to take care of somebody, to, you know, like there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, you're living by yourself, so there's a financial incentive behind it. But I think I think I fully agree that probably when I'm 30, I'm gonna look back and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? But I think I feel the exact same way as you do. I just have so much energy and so much excitement to just do the most excessive things possible to just make something that you really care about. And I feel like there's almost like a momentum to it. Like just how you're saying, there are some days where you're recording or you're writing and it's like maybe 1, 2, 4 hours. And then when it's that last, I'd say 40% of a video, it's almost like a swing of momentum where like you can't think about anything else. You can't.
Well, it's almost done. Like it's almost out. So you may as well just keep going. I literally have, I think the last several videos that I've uploaded, the day of upload or like the day before upload, I'm up till 4 a.m. Because I always do the thing where I'm like, okay, I finished editing and it's 8 o'clock now. So I may as well do my uploads and like post it on Patreon and do all of that tonight and just say I'm going to put it up tomorrow. And then that takes me like an extra 6 hours because it always takes a long time, or like I have to like re-upload because it got copyright claimed or something. And then I'm up till like 6 a.m. It's like, okay, well, next time I'll be smart and know that if I finished editing at 8, I should probably start all the stuff the next day, but I never do because it's almost out and I could just keep pushing a little bit more and like get it out eventually. And I can afford to stay up until 6 a.m. and like wake up the next day and like not be dead.
Right. Like no one's going to check on you. No one's going to be like, Lextorias, what you're doing seems a little bit unhealthy. Don't you?
Yeah. It's just, that's it. I have no other obligations for it. So it's just like, I may as well just let this consume my life for at least a couple more hours and then like deal with the consequences later.
It's so bad. I'm the exact same way. On my last upload, so before uploading, I was awake for 30 hours and I had to scratch like the last 8 hours of work because I woke up. So I had to like nap for everything to render. And then when I woke up to look back at what I just rendered, like the thing I just made while having a fucking manic episode, I was like, the last 8 hours, I sound like a crazy person. Like this is garbage. I did this. Have you ever read the manga Vagabond?
I haven't.
It's like this. It's one of the most. It's basically held up as a manga that has some of the best art, and it's about this samurai who it's about the world's most famous samurai known as Miyamoto Musashi, and I loved the everlasting shit out of it. I was so excited to talk about it, and then I realized that I had a certain due date because of my sponsor, and as that due date was getting closer, I was still like, I haven't done anything for Vagabond yet, and so I crunched it all within that last 30 hours, and then I woke up and I was like, this is the worst shit that I have ever made in my life. So I just scrapped it, and I was like an insane person. Do you ever drink caffeine? Like, do you drink coffee or anything while making your videos?
I am an energy drink addict. I am consistently addicted.
Now, which energy drink are we talking about here? Are we talking Celsius or what are we?
I am a connoisseur of energy drinks. I've had an idea for a video on my second channel I want to do at some point where I taste test every energy drink I can find. I just have to work out the logistics of not dying afterward.
You would combust, bro. If you just take a sip of each one.
I did the math. So here in Canada, they legally limit the amount of caffeine that you can put in a drink at like 160 milligrams or something.
What?
Which means they're all, right? Like very little compared to like Bang Energy in the States, which is like 300 or something.
Wait, so you guys don't have Celsius or like or that Gatorade or Prime or anything like that?
Nothing. We do have Bang, and we do have like all the big Monster, Red Bull or whatever, but they're all limited at like 160 or 180 milligrams or something like that. So it's like, half of what it would be in the States or anywhere else. And because of that, I was like, okay, I can do the math where it's like how many energy drinks I could do before I hit the like 400 milligram limit that's like recommended for you.
Yeah.
And I figured out I could do about 20 energy drinks if I did one shot of each one. I've planned this video out in my head because I like energy drinks so much. I'm genuinely addicted. But there's one here. I don't know if it's in the States or like outside of Canada. It's called C4.
Oh, yeah. We have C4. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a blue flavor. It's zero sugar, which is like I've tried to like kick soda because I'm a huge soda addict too. I've tried to like, if I am going to drink energy drinks and soda, it may as well be zero sugar. So I drink C4 a lot because that's like one of the only ones that's zero sugar and doesn't taste like crap.
And I like here I'd say most of them, which is interesting you say that. I had no fucking clue that there was supposed to be a limit. In America, it feels like it's fucking free ball. When you have a Bang energy
someone
drink,
told me about Bang, and it was like, oh yeah, it's like 300 milligrams. And I remember drinking Bang and be like, no, it isn't. And then I had to look it up, and it's like, Canada just limits that, which is like a crazy, weird, specific thing for them to do for like health reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. In America, it's basically like legal. I love how we're embracing our toxic work habits. I could go on about this all day because I'm also
someone's going to be listening
fiend.
to this and be like, we're such bad influences.
This is such a bad, somebody
Anyone
wants to
who watches me is like, oh, how do I be a YouTuber? It's like, oh, you want to work 16 hours a day, drink 2 energy drinks, do cocaine. Why not? Like,
you basically work until you're manic. It's fine. You're going to be totally great. You're going to have a great time.
Exactly.
It's not going to help what I'm about to say. I was making the last video for about 4 months, and during the last 2 months of it, I was reaching the limit. Every single time I was reaching the limit of 400 milligrams. So I was having 2 Celsiuses a day, and on that last day where I was up for 30 hours, I'm just okay. just shits and giggles aside, would not advise this. Do not do this, guys. I was being irresponsible. I don't condone this. I know for a fact that I'm never doing this again. But I had like 800 milligrams of caffeine. I was a crazy person during that last day. I would. That is. Afterwards, do you ever cold turkey it afterwards? Do you ever go through a period?
Every time I'm like, I'm gonna quit this time. I'm never gonna do it again. I'm gonna stop doing it. And then you like get a headache at like 8 a.m. and you're like, oh,
yeah, the withdrawals.
Addiction is real.
Yeah. We're gonna look back on this like 10 years from now and we're gonna think like, man, caffeine was that was a fucked era. Remember when kids would just be like
have blind
caffeine?
In one eye and like in a hospital bed,
liver problems, and your pee is green for no reason. You're just. Yeah. I feel like I kind of go on those ridiculous schedules, and then I've been cold turkeying it for about like 3 weeks now, just zero caffeine, and I know. Again, just embracing our toxic work habits. Basically the second that I start writing or editing or just anything that requires a lot of labor, I know it's just going to ramp up, and it just always goes to that. If the limit is supposed to be 400 milligrams, I am reaching 400 milligrams. There's no doubt about it, because your tolerance gets so high by the end of it. Oh
yeah, it just doesn't do anything. I learned my lesson in high school, because in high school I used to have a job where I worked at a gas station, and we would just get like basically free whatever we wanted, because it was like a shitty small town gas station and the guy running it didn't care. So he's like, yeah, you can just like steal stuff and like it'll be reimbursed or whatever, as like an incentive for me to basically work like a slave job. It was like a weird like cash only situation, like basically just like a summer job for like a friend. But I got unlimited energy drinks. So I would drink like 2 giant Red Bulls, the largest size of Red Bull that you could get in the morning. And then I would have like a 5-hour energy drink at lunch. And then I would drink something else for dinner. And I almost had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
Where I was literally like had symptoms of a heart attack and like had to get checked up. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what happens when you do that. Because I probably went like way over even like, and I was also like 15 at the time, so I was like way smaller too. So like it's not gonna like, there's just a whole bunch of health problems already with drinking caffeine, and I'm doing like triple the limit. And so ever since then, I've learned to limit myself, but I still do like 2 energy drinks on days where I'm like, yeah, like really cramming for a video. And my thing also is I have just like general like a hard time. It takes me a super long time to go to sleep, and I'm a really big night owl. Mm-hmm. So if it hits 4 a.m, I just have no problem like staying awake and like keeping working, even if I don't have like that much caffeine or anything. I'll just keep going. Like I don't feel tired yet. Yeah,
no, I'm the exact same. I find myself being most productive, but also just more creative when the sun's not out. I never wake up and just look forward to working in the morning. And it's also interesting that you bring up. I personally, people should be very conscious of how much caffeine they consume, but have you ever read?
Yeah, anyone listening, please,
for the love of Christ, I'm looking at the camera right now. It's not don't be stupid. Just don't be stupid.
Don't be like me. Don't be stupid.
We have a 100% smart audience coming from Lextorias' channel and my channel.
Nobody who watches me is impressionable at all.
Yeah,
I certainly can't see the analytics and see how many people who watch me are under 18.
The minimum IQ is 150 average.
Exactly. YouTube shows you that, actually.
I've checked the analytics. It's so you wouldn't be able to prove me even if you tried. But what I'm trying to say is that around a couple months ago, I read this book, which was Stephen King's memoir. Have you ever read this before?
I've read parts of it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Stephen King is like he's one of the authors, just one of the authors of all time.
Certainly the most prolific.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's like, and one of the things that he talks about is that there was a point during, especially at his prime, at like when he was publishing books like crazy, he just blatantly admits to having a crazy drug addiction while writing a lot of those books. Just fucking.
He doesn't remember writing Cujo. He was so high on cocaine at the time.
He was just blacked out. Drinking, and there was a point where I remember in the book he mentions that he would stuff cotton swabs up his nose while he was using a typewriter because there was just so much blood coming out of it from doing lines of coke. So there's a lot of And when you read his work, it makes sense. It makes sense that you can tell this was made by somebody who was not in a normal mental state. And I feel like that kind of, there's a weird effect that I think happens when you consume a lot of caffeine, where it's not necessarily that you're like smarter or more productive or anything like that. I just think it just makes your brain go 1,000 miles an hour. It just goes so much faster. And I've actually noticed this, and I'm curious to hear if it's the same for you, but I actually can't write when I'm super caffeinated. Everything I write down just sounds so ADHD and disoriented when I do it. But when I edit, it's like a machine. Like I could edit for fucking 16, 20 hours straight if it's on caffeine.
Yeah, it's weird. So do you actually have ADHD or like anything like that?
Not that I know of, but my comments like to diagnose me every fucking day.
It's very easy to. So I actually have talked to a doctor about ADHD and like that I have it, though I haven't re-talked to them to get prescriptions because I'm lazy. But one of the things with ADHD is that it's a very common thing for caffeine to put you to sleep for a lot of people. But for me, when I drink it, it's very rarely that it energizes me. It focuses me way more than if I don't have it, especially if I have it like in the morning or something like that. So I actually find that I write way better on caffeine, which just makes it worse and more addicting.
Because then you use it. The worst thing, and he mentions this in his memoir, is that you try to use that as a source for your creativity. When the creativity has nothing to do with it, you don't. But that's the thing that I always have to remind myself is like, I can do these things and I'm capable of these things in whatever mindset I need to be. It's not because of, X, Y, Z or whatever. Although I do think, like, I'm very much of the belief that your body is your temple. So when you're making a video and you're trying to just put things out there that go through your mind, if you're treating your body like shit, which is kind of like ironic from what we said earlier, but if you treat your body like shit, it's impossible for that to not show in your video that you're like in a bad mood or you're just not feeling that, like you're just not really feeling into it. And I've noticed, that's why I always try to, take a lot of priority into exercise and just getting good sleep and stuff, because I feel like I see things more clearly and I feel like I can express the things that I'm trying to do in a way better light than if I started writing at that state that I'm in at the last week of making a video, it'd be awful. They'd be like, what is wrong with this guy? This Alex dude is a piece of shit.
Yeah, there is a certain point where even when I'm writing, when it gets late enough into the night where I'm like, I can write forever now, but I know that my writing is just going to be terrible. It's just going to like go off the rails and be incomprehensible. And I'll have to like delete it afterwards anyways, because it doesn't make any sense. But at the time, I'm like, I could write twice as much as I've already written.
Yeah. I mean,
so
your rate of writing is fucking absurd in comparison to mine, which is why I'm trying to picture it in my head the way I would do it. And I'm realizing, oh, this guy's talking about like 40,000 words a minute. Like we're not on the same plane here.
I mean, again, it's just like brain dump. So a lot of it is like I edit a lot of it even when it's cohesive. But a lot of what I do is just generally produce as much as possible and then have trouble editing it down later. So if I'm like overly caffeinated or something like that, it just even gets like when you get jittery caffeinated, that's when it just gets like completely incomprehensible. Even if a lot of the time I'll drink an energy drink before I record something because I want a burst of energy. And I notice if I record for long enough, eventually it just becomes like weirdly like the energy is in the wrong place almost, and I have like this weird stare that I'm giving the camera or something like that, and I just like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I'll re-record that part the next day.
I just keep accidentally taking Xanax before I record, and everyone thinks I'm like fucking just you have 1,000-yard stare into the camera and you didn't even notice it. Like I feel like one thing I wanted to ask you was I mentioned earlier that I personally feel like I get this weight whenever I write things now, just as your platform becomes bigger and the more you're exposing yourself to just different, I guess, areas of YouTube. Do you feel that same weight given that you write a lot more frequently? Like when you're, I don't know if you use like Google Doc or Word, but when you open up those softwares, do you feel it? Like, do you feel the audience that could potentially be seeing it?
Yeah. So something I've had to like struggle with a lot is the idea that like, my videos reach a good amount of people, and if I'm writing something on a topic, I always have the desire to make it like bigger and better and more concise and more truthful. Like I do more research on it, or like, you know, someone's going to see this and this is going to be their first introduction to this topic. So I have to explain it super duper well to make sure that they get everything that it's about. And that's something that I've really struggled with, because like I feel that weight a lot with pretty much everything I write, and like trying to like double check sources or like make sure that every topic I'm covering, like I'm fully knowledgeable about it so that someone isn't going to like be misinformed by what I'm saying. And my thought is now that I just want to make videos that are less impactful or like less important. Because I do have lots of ideas for videos that they don't all have to be these big, grand, hour-and-a-half long deep dives. Some of them can just be like little dumb projects that I'm making. And so that's why I'm now trying to hold myself accountable to 2 videos a month, because I want to like force myself to not get too involved in a project or like let it consume me as much as some of them have. And I want to be able to let go of something and just have it be like, okay, this is just like a dumb little video on this thing. It doesn't have to be this big, grand, you know, covering of an entire genre of media or something like that.
The definitive video of XYZ almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because I had that with my waifus video where I was like, this has to cover every single thing ever. And I'm going back to like obscure history from the 1940s. And it's like, it is fun to make videos like that. And I do want to make more videos like that. But in the back of my brain, I want every video to be like that, or there's some part of me that's like, you should make every video like this deep and explorative and bigger. And I've seen what happens to other people where that happens, and they upload one video a year and then the video is like all consuming and they get burnt out or like quit YouTube or something.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you're spot on about that, just because you see so many video essayists whose upload schedule gets longer and longer and longer, and they just sounds like each project gets more and more draining. But again,
every video is then better and better, but it's like kind of at what cost?
Yeah, it's like what are you doing all this for at the end of the day? Like what?
Yeah, so there are a lot of YouTubers where it's like, I feel like it is 100% worth them spending that much time on it. Like I love Frederick Knudsen, who makes Down the Rabbit Hole. And he makes like one video a year at this point, but they're all amazing. Like every single one of his videos is like fantastic.
Yeah.
Or like Summoning Salt has started taking like way longer to put their videos together, but they're like so much better. And I am like, okay, this is very much worth the result.
Yeah.
And I've just made that decision personally for myself that I want to go the other way. And I want to just kind of upload more videos. And if I do make a really long or like esoteric video that's just like about something that no one cares about, or like goes so deep that it's like the definitive version, I just want that to be like in the background while I make like regular content. Not even just for like that YouTube kind of makes you do that, because that's what gets rewarded is uploading more, but just because I like having ideas that don't have to be a 40-minute long video or something like that.
You really are the
with
reverse
all of my
of
videos.
Me. You are the reverse Flash of me. It's so funny.
Yeah. Well, like I've literally had the idea. I don't even remember what it was. Oh, it was my fan service video. My fan service video started off as like a 15-minute video just talking about fan service and like how it's treated in Fire Force. And then my brain just couldn't let go of the topic, and I had to like make it the 45-minute like epic that it is. And then I just do that with every video where I'm like, oh, this will just be like a 10-minute thing. It doesn't have to be big. And then they just balloon out of control and like take like a month to make. And I want to like try and curb that if I can. Because yeah, I like making videos, and I don't necessarily like taking a super long time to make like the biggest grand epic with every single video that I make.
Yeah, there needs to be something in between where you're not, because it is emotionally draining. If you spend so many months doing it, it's just so exhausting. And there's almost like it's more like a relief when you upload it. It's less of a, thank God, I'm so happy it turned out the way it did. It's more just like, oh my God,
I'm done. I can finally stop working.
I'm free. And then I guess the positive reactions happen afterwards, you know, when people say nice things about it, or it turned out the way that you wanted it to. And I guess I'm calling you the reverse Flash of me, because I swing between those two routes all the time. I have one part of me that really badly wants to just not how would I explain this? Just not feel so emotionally invested into every single project and every single idea that I want to do, and I want to be able to just make like a, this is a hee hee ha ha funny video about one manga or one thing, or just me sharing my thoughts about this. But there's the other side of me that wants to just fucking flamingo dive, backflip just straight into 90 pages of Wikipedia articles that have nothing to do with it. Because it's like that Casey Neistat thing you mentioned. We're so young and our channels are so new that we don't know better. So I just keep going.
Yeah,
Who cares? It's just like what's the cost? There are no consequences because I haven't experienced the consequences for that yet. And I just I can feel myself. Like the more I think about it and the more I try to tackle between what side I want to lean on for the videos I make, the more I feel like, oh man, like I really just want that upload once a year type of schedule. You just have a Patreon, so YouTube just out of the fucking question, and you just make.
Oh yeah, where like it's like Jacob Geller or someone who gets $15,000 every time he uploads, and it's like, okay, well,
or Action Button 20,000 fucking Patreons like a month, like there, and they just it serves as a stress relief because there's not this constant weight that every single upload has to pay rent. It's nice that you get to have something passive and you have a group of people that are willing to do that, which is getting harder because I think Patreon is getting so saturated now. It's becoming such a prevalent way for people to like they need it. Like YouTube just isn't reliable in that way. And I
think just in general, it's getting like, and I mean, people have been saying that since like 2006, but like YouTube and everything has been getting more saturated and more. That's another part of it is like I, as a YouTuber, even if you only have like a couple thousand subscribers, you are competing with every other YouTuber who does the same thing now. And there's YouTubers who've been around for like 10 years. So like, yeah, Action Button has a massive Patreon, but if someone wants to do what Action Button does and starts a Patreon, it's not going to be as big as Action Button's.
Oh yeah.
Because someone else would just pledge to Action Button. Like he already exists and does it better because he has more experience. So it becomes this weird, like, top 10% of people kind of like sticking around.
Oh, I mean, top 0.0001. Like how many video essayists get to just do just what they do and not post frequently? There's such few that I would be able to list off the top of my head. Like it just comes so far none. It's interesting that you mentioned that. Oh wow, hold on, my webcam just went dark. No, we're like not dark. I meant like I had a source of light and it was my phone, and my phone literally ran out of battery. I mean, who the fuck cares? Whatever. Everyone can just accept the fact that my webcam is going to be pitch black. You can see my silhouette, and that's all that matters. But anyways, I was going to ask you. So speaking of somebody potentially taking the approach that Action Button does, which by the way, no one's going to. There's so far few people who are psychopaths to try to. He even
literally
attempt.
Is like built different, like literally, like no, he's the only person who can do that. Like actually,
this is just gonna be an episode where we compliment Action Button. That guy is insane. Like he is actually insane. He has he has this like brain condition called HSAM.
Hyperthymesia.
Yeah, it's absurd. If you guys don't know this, you can Google it. It's called. Is it like HSAM or what is it called?
I heard him say hyperthymesia. I think there's other things. But I think the unofficial term is just autobiographical memory.
Whoever's listening to this, just Google it. It is this sounds like a fucking superpower. It doesn't sound real to me, but it
sounds horrible in real life, but in like fiction, it's a superpower. I think it's the same fictional disease, or not fictional, but I think it's the thing that they mirrored like Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory off of and stuff like in fiction, it's used as a superpower, but he just really has it.
Until him, I didn't even know that it was a real diagnosis.
I thought it was a made up thing. I thought it was an entirely made up thing, and then I found out that he had it, and I was like, oh, okay. And he has a story he wrote, just like Hamburger, exactly like Hamburger, which I think you can look up, and it's like a Medium thing that he wrote, where he talks about it and talks about how horrible it is a lot of the time.
You need to link
But,
that to me. I'm so fucking curious. Okay, well, if anybody, for those who don't know, the diagnosis that Action Button, the YouTube channel that we're talking about, has, he has this condition where he can remember every single moment that's ever happened in his life, and it shows in his videos because he just starts recollecting really, really incredibly specific events, and he'll just know it like no one. It's not like he's trying to have like a That's So Raven moment where he's like, oh, thinking. It's just like, it's like if I were to show you I don't know, the color red, and you're not thinking, oh, is that red or is that not? Your brain just immediately makes that connection. It works that exact way for him. If you ask him,
he remembers every time he saw red, basically.
Yeah.
As like that memory. Or like, I think in the story he talks about someone asked him like, how many times have you gotten punched in the face? And he's just like, oh, 7. I can remember each and every moment like identically. And so all the memories are like treated equally in his mind, which is why his videos are like 6 hours long. Because he can be like, oh yeah, and I saw this movie on November 10th, 2004, and I did this afterwards. And like, it's all just right there for him. Which is why his videos are so weirdly specific a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I mean, the byproduct of it is beautiful. Again, I could imagine it's probably very, very miserable, but even after I found out that he had that, I was doing a bunch of research into it, and I saw videos of other people that said they had it, and it was just crazy. You could ask them a question like, what day of the week was it on September 3rd, 1996? And they'll be like, oh, it's a Friday. Like they're not trying to impress you. They're not trying to guess. It's like I said, like it's the color red. Like it's just obvious that it's a Friday to them.
Well, and Tim Rogers specifically, Action Button, he is fluent in, I want to say 12 languages, something like that. He lived in Japan for like 10 years, so he majorly speaks Japanese, but he's fluent in a bunch of languages. And it really makes sense when you figure out that like he can't forget any of it, or like, you know, all of it's kind of like identically remembered to him.
Do you have can I pinpoint Action Button as being a big source of inspiration? Do you have a top 3 list of YouTubers or people that make videos that you're like, ideally you'd like to aim towards what they're able to achieve?
So like, I only started watching him recently. I had been recommended a bunch of his videos over the course of just like watching YouTube, and never got into them. I think I started watching his Boku no Natsuyasumi video, and it was 6 hours long, and he starts off with his like fake video game voice that he does for every video.
Yeah, I remember
Hello
that.
and welcome to like it's just like, oh, okay. And I was like immediately turned off by like the first 30 seconds. And it took me months to then like actually start the video and like kind of fall in love with all the stuff he does. But yeah, he was never a really big inspiration because I only got into him recently. The big ones for me were always Nakey Jakey. One, I just always wanted to do what he did, and just loved the way that he makes a video. Looked like he just kind of like shit it out. Like it didn't even, like he's just like not even trying.
Yeah.
And the video is just like so perfectly constructed. And oh God, who else? I think just in general, I watch a ton of one-off videos from a lot of people. Jacob Geller right now, in specific, is a big one for me. He's huge into video game essays and talking about that. And I think his ability to write stuff is like super inspiring to me. But I watch a ton of videos. So like my amount of inspirations is just like every video I've ever seen, I get a little bit from. The video that started my success on YouTube was my big long Elden Ring review, and that was me watching what's his name, Joseph Anderson, and being like, oh, I just want to make a video that's like exactly like what he made, and I just like ripped off his style and made a video that was like basically paying homage to him because he hadn't made an Elden Ring review yet.
It's so funny you say that, just because, I mean, we've spoken earlier about this, but I make this statement to my friends all the time that I am one of the biggest fans of just the video essay medium. And I think you are probably one of the few people who outbeat me on that, just in terms of just the people, like these names that we're mentioning. It's the first time that I've heard names that I haven't known them. I know I watch so many fucking video essays, and I'm the same way. Like I find so much inspiration from them, and I feel like you're one of the few people who somehow, I don't know how you do this, but you somehow manage to watch more than I do. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like I really like movies, and especially I like a lot of directors. And I remember reading something about Quentin Tarantino where he was talking about his inspirations, and he's like, I've just seen every movie ever, basically. Someone had it. There was some podcast where like a friend of his or like someone who worked with him on a movie was talking about like, oh, we went over to Quentin's place and we're like, oh, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, I'm just watching all the movies from like the 90s to the 2000s. And they're like, oh, you mean like movies by like certain directors in the 90s and 2000s? And it's like, no, he just compiled every movie made from 1990 to the year 2000 and was just like watching them all in order because he's like, just that kind of person.
That's psychotic.
And that's why you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie and you're like, oh, I can see all of the inspirations and like all of like the insane things that he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so good. And I feel like a lot of some of the best YouTube channels are ones where you can like clearly see that they just watch a ton of YouTube and like get it. And I just naturally was like, I just love watching YouTube. I watch YouTube for like 8 hours a day if I can. And like don't stop watching it, and then try to like pick apart bits and pieces of things that I like and things that I want to adapt into my own videos, and just try and like make my own identity around that.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to inspiration or when it comes to like creating your own videos, you're never going to escape your inspirations. Like you're never going to make a video that was not in some way influenced by something else, because you just can't create ideas in a vacuum. So it's better to be like aware of that and try to lean into that, and just watch tons of videos and like figure out what they do and how you can adapt them and like all the different things. So a lot of my videos are just me trying to think of that very directly. Like my horror games video is me trying to make a Jacob Geller video.
Yeah.
It was just like, what if I just wrote a video like he does? Or like try to influence my style in some way from him.
I feel like,
and I think
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the harder thing is morphing it into something that is unique, which I think I'm starting to do now with like my couch style videos, like make something that is less this one YouTuber I'm copying and more like a bunch of inspirations kind of combined together into something that itself is not one thing. Because it's very easy to just rip off a video. It's harder to like make your own thing that is like inspired by stuff. Like to do the Quentin Tarantino thing where he makes a unique film, but you can clearly see it's like 100 different references everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't think he tries to hide it either. I think he does homages.
He like directly rips off scenes from other movies.
Exactly.
Like he'll straight up pay homage to them.
I still feel like it's done tastefully. I feel like as long as you're able to approach it.
The whole movie itself is like unique. Like Kill Bill is its own movie,
right? But
there are just certain parts of it that you're like, oh, this is from this, this is from this, this is from this, this is where you got this, like, and that's sort of the sign of someone who's like understands why those things are good and why he would put them into the movie as opposed to just like ripping it off entirely.
Which is funny. We mentioned people like Action Button, where it's almost impossible to take it. If you even try to rip them off, it'd just be nearly impossible. I talked with this with Danny, Lines in Motion, and what's funny is that the way that they make videos it's almost also kind of fun. I don't know. Have you ever watched a video made by Lines in Motion?
I have. Yeah, I've seen.
It's
I like
absurd.
their videos a lot.
To this day, the more I learn about editing and the more I expose myself to the medium of people that make videos about manga, it is so obvious to me when a video is made by Danny and it's just not, even if you try to copy that exact same aesthetic, it's fucking impossible. And I guess the unfortunate case is that, and I mean, you have probably experienced this yourself, which is that the second that something goes right on YouTube, people are so quick to jump on that and just...
Oh, it's the meta now.
Yeah, exactly. Meta is the perfect word for it. There's like a patch note. There's a YouTube patch note, and it's like, guys, this works right now. Do that exact same thing. And it's exactly like you mentioned. If you go at it with the intent of being the next Action Button, like you're just going to be a straight one-to-one copy of Tim Rogers, because of your intentions, it's impossible for the result of that to be anything other than the downgrade of the downgrade of a downgrade of Tim Rogers, you know?
Yeah, he can never make a video better than him. So if you're trying to be him, then he's better at being him than you can be.
Yeah,
so
it's like
what's the point?
His fucking HSAM. Like, good luck with that shit, bro. Like, and also,
yeah, well, and he has experience at it. Like, he knows how to make his videos 6 hours long and like do it productively. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
like when I tried to make my Joseph Anderson video, it took forever because I had no idea how to like structure it. And then he made a video like very shortly after, and I was like, oh, this is just a better version of what I was trying to do because I was trying to copy him.
Which is it's not to accuse, like, I'm not trying to undermine it and make it seem like, oh, if you rip off somebody, you're a bad person or something. It's a very human reaction because it's coming from a good place. If you're as somebody who's a big fan of Super Eye Patch Wolf, it comes from a good place when I try to aspire to achieve what that person is able to do. I just think it's important to recognize it. It's like you said, we're like this big mesh of these things that inspire us. We're like a bucket of just 20 different colors, and the result of it is fucking weird and ugly and gross, and it's like you're not even sure if it's a color anymore. But that is because of nobody else is able to share those exact same experiences. That's the byproduct of what you do. And so I remember, like, I was the exact same way with like how you felt with the Joseph Anderson video. I think my first couple videos, my references were like Masked Man, Scamboli, Gigak, and you could just tell very early on that it wasn't. It was out of my comfort zone. Like, I was just kind of replicating those kinds of things. And then I realized, and this is literally something I only kind of learned from making that video about Tatsuki Fujimoto and Chainsaw Man, is that when you read Chainsaw Man and whenever I was doing a bunch of research on Tatsuki Fujimoto, you could just tell, kind of like the Tarantino thing you mentioned, this guy would just like quote and reference a movie in every sentence of his interviews. They'll be asking him like, oh, how do you draw? And he's like, well, so in this page I watched this Korean film from 1994. And you're like, how the fuck, like, how do you have this backlog of just shit that you consume? And I've just realized that's kind of the amazing part about Chainsaw Man, is it's just filled with references that reminds you of everything. It reminds you of every aspect of like different shonen different mangas, different bits of media that you love. And it's not just like secluded to manga. It's also just takes huge inspiration from film. And I've noticed because of making that video, that it almost led to this byproduct of me realizing, oh, you can do the exact same thing with any art form. You can do the same thing where it's like you embrace, like you said, you embrace it. You just you dive, you embrace the fact that you're this weird mess of inspiration instead of trying to hide it. Because I think when you hide it, that's when it comes off as disingenuous, or you just end up being a copycat. When it's
because like imitation is the highest form of flattery, is the saying, and I think that only applies when the imitation is purposeful and like described. Like, I am trying to imitate, like, I've been open about the fact that I made a Joseph Anderson video because I like him so much. He makes videos that are so good that I wanted to be like him. And I think that if I had tried to hide that, or tried to be like, oh, I'm doing my own thing, like, that's when it becomes like you're cheating, like you're trying to like cheat the system, or like trying to like come off smarter than you are. And like, speaking again about how I talked about Quentin Tarantino, I've literally heard Tatsuki Fujimoto like referred to as like a Quentin Tarantino type person. Like, it's a very similar thing where it's like weird, obscure references that you'd never get. I don't know if you're caught up to the manga. He has a new character that's like just one-to-one based off of the movie The Menu that just came out, where he just liked The Menu so much he made a character about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, it's very obvious what you're doing here. But because he's able to just completely own the references that he's making and like incorporate them, it works flawlessly. Like, you'd never even, it doesn't come across as just like a kid trying to like imitate someone else. It comes across as someone who knows why they like this thing, why it's good, and then is able to like adapt it and make it their own, which is, I think, what the best of any creator is able to do. I just saw recently, I think I was watching it last night, there's a live concert recording video of a 100 Gex like DJ session. I don't know if you listen to 100 Gex or like you're familiar with them.
No, unfortunately not.
They make hyperpop music, or like just very glitchy, extremely specific types of like basically pop music if you cranked it up to like 15 to the point that it got distorted.
Okay.
And they have a new album that just came out and they just did like a recent like session, but it's a whole DJ session. So it's them playing mostly like other songs and like remixes and stuff. And all of them are songs that 100 Gex really likes. And it'll play like an Aerosmith song straight into like a Five Nights at Freddy's fan song, straight into a Gorillaz song, straight into Skrillex. And it's like their references are laid bare like 100% where they're getting everything from. Yeah. And the set itself, the YouTube video, I think it's called like The Boiler Room 100 Gex. It's amazing. But you can even just listen to their own like 100% 100 Gex made songs. And it's very obvious, like they took what they liked, so they influenced it and adapted it and like made it into their own thing. In a way that you listen to 100 Gex and you're like, this is a 100 Gex song. This is not all of their influences just like thrown into a blender. And that's, to be able to do that is just, or to be able to like try to do that is very difficult. But if you can pull it off, you can do crazy good things. Because even Nikki Jakey, who inspired me, and I assume was big on you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Him and Eye Patch Wolf like directly just one-to-one the exact same feeling.
I know probably like half a dozen YouTubers at this point who could directly say like Nikki Jakey's like one of the reasons I started my channel or like make videos a certain way. Right. And in one of his videos, I forget exactly which one, he just talks about being directly influenced by what's his name?
Donkey?
He talks about being directly influenced by a game designer, Hey Ash, what you playing? Her brother, forget his name.
You're asking the worst person, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, I'm directly ripping off this other person who made YouTube videos before me, and the only thing I remember the joke because it was the only thing keeping me from copyright infringement is this yoga ball, and he was like, just laid out that he's like directly doing something else, but then he made it into his own thing. So he's inspiring other people to make, the types of videos that we make. And then people would probably then be inspired by the channels that are inspired by Nikki Jakey. Like it's just this infinite chain, and it's never going to stop. And it's always going to like, there's always another layer to it. Mm-hmm. Cause even if you go to like the most quote unquote, like pure creators who are just like kind of creating their own stuff in a vacuum, they are influenced by other things and it like never stops. So to be able to like, own up to it, I think is what makes people stick.
Yeah, something's inspired by something. Like it'd be impossible for you to pretend like you've come up with something original. Like that'll just never be the case. I'm wondering, are there any Lextorias clones you've seen so far? Has anybody tried? You've seen you come across a video and you're like, is that what I think it is?
I haven't seen anyone do what I do. I think it would be pretty like, because the main things you could copy is like the couch and like, I don't know, going weirdly specifically into detail about a topic doesn't seem like a noticeable thing. Like I don't have such a unique video style that I would even notice someone like directly copying me, unless they made a video about the same topic, which I haven't seen.
Part of it's probably just because our channels are so young, and I personally just don't feel like I have a style.
We're not nearly big
yet.
enough to be like, to the point where I grew up watching Alex videos.
That's always. Apparently your dad is my biggest fan, so I'll take that. There will be there will be an era of just him thinking I'm your videos.
Well, that's the other funny thing is he was like, "Is this your second channel?" And I'm like, "He has more subscribers than like. Why would my second channel be like twice as big and completely unrelated?" Like, that's a very weird assumption.
Keep up the secret. Good job. Good. Keep telling him that.
Yeah, totally.
Keep telling him that. I feel like, it's funny you say that because one of my first only interactions with you was I would just shit talk in your comments about how you have the same name as me. And then
that's how I've met most of the YouTubers that I talk to, is like leaving a weird random comment on their video, or literally just like following them on Twitter. I think that's what happened with you and me. I followed you on Twitter and then you just like followed me back or something like that.
Yeah.
I've had that happen like 3 times where I'm like, oh, I just found your channel and I was like, oh, this guy's amazing. He makes super great videos. Like these are, I binge watched all your stuff in like a couple of days. And then I followed you on Twitter and I saw you followed me back and I was like, it wasn't supposed to go this far. Like
that's so crazy.
The people I like aren't supposed to understand that I exist.
Yeah.
Like that's not a...
I mean, that's so crazy. I had the opposite reaction. I saw your videos and I was like, these are the worst videos I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I should follow him back so I can tell him how much of a piece of shit he is. Jesus.
Well, that's what you did. You DM me on Twitter and you're like, you piece of shit. You're never going to make it on here. Delete your channel.
And that's how we got along. We were like, this is great. We should get on a Discord call together or something. We should
record a video together.
We should figure it out. I feel like one of the things that I like, especially when it comes to your channel, it's again, I found it from the horror video game channel, and I think I actually have friends that saw your fan service video right away. Do you have would you say you have this weird problem where it's like a completely split audience in terms of what they want from you? Or is it just kind of like we're all Lextorias fans here? We're all just here for the guy on the couch and we'll listen to him talk about whatever.
So that's the weird thing is like it is definitely split. I've done now 2 polls on my community tab where I asked people like, do you like anime type videos more? Do you like gaming type videos more? Like just trying to get a feel of it. And I think in one of them I had like just uploaded an anime video and it was doing well too, but the community poll was like 80% people like video games and like don't care about anime. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting that like the videos are doing well. So obviously people are watching me that like my anime content, but then I poll people about it and they're like, oh, I only like the video game stuff. And it is this weird split audience. YouTube, I trying to like rack my brain about like, there's constantly that thought of like, what's a video I could do next that would like perform well? Because unfortunately, YouTube just like poisons your mind with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of given up on that entirely because like my channel is just so all over the place and so weird. And I go way too deep into some of these topics for someone to like watch them who doesn't care at all. So it becomes like this weird game of like, trying to like, I guess, try to appease both sides. Cause I do just genuinely like video games and anime like pretty equally. So it's like, I can't just, you can't really combine them cause there's not really an avenue to do that. But 2, like, I don't want to just focus on one, even though I know YouTube would be like really promoting that.
Yeah.
Just to like make the same type of video over and over again.
I feel like,
but there are a ton of people who just like me for what videos I make. And I think trying to like cultivate a specific style that I do has really helped with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not
like
one of those
videos.
people. I hate this guy. Every time I watch them, I just watch it specifically for the topic. Separate. I wish you could just mask out.
Well, you just click on the videos for the boob thumbnail. That's all you came for.
I would never I would not. I don't have a waifu pillow or anything, but I did want to say like kudos to you and especially also to Internet Pit Stop. I feel like a lot of people are scared to make that jump. I feel like, especially with Internet Pit Stop, it feels like he's definitely cultivated a group of people that want to listen to him just talk about anything.
His videos are super personable, which I love about his channel. That they like, he just made a video quite recently that was like one of my favorites of his, where he just talks about like his childhood and like his best friend in high school, and it's like, yeah, that's why I'm watching. Like that's the kind of like, he just relates it to his own life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it is like just how it affects him, which is, I think is the same thing with Action Button. Like he very rarely reviews the games. He reviews his entire life leading up to playing the game. So it makes it a lot easier to like just not care about the game he's talking about.
Yeah. Or just in the middle of the review, he'll talk about a date he went on when he was 20, when like at a Sonic's.
Yeah.
And it'll go on for 10 minutes. And it's just, I mean, it's almost like a filter to see if you're a real one. Like, are you really, really into this video?
Yeah.
I think well, I did want to give kudos to both of you guys, just because I feel like it is a very scary jump. I would imagine that first time that you made you have a set of videos and there's that first time where you're willing to make that jump. I feel like most people are just horrified of that. They don't want to test the waters for that. I'd say I do sometimes kind of feel like that. I've made it very clear at times that I don't just want to specifically ever talk about manga. I think I'd shoot myself if that was the case. If I felt like I was forced to talk about things I didn't give a shit about.
That's why I split up, is I was like, if I talked about video games, even if I had like 10 billion subscribers and all I could talk about was video games, like I'd delete my channel.
Yeah, or you had to make fan service videos, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like it's just an epilogue.
That's what the waifus video started out as. Yeah. I was gonna make fan service part 2, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. Let's talk about something else entirely.
Yeah, I know. I feel the exact same way as you. It's just that I'm so new to the medium of manga. I'm the same. Like I grew up playing video games and I grew up watching anime. Never did I think I'd ever want to read either of those things. I never thought I'd ever give a shit about it. And I'm so new to it that it's almost like I've opened up this entire world of things that I am like so interested and passionate about. But there is a day, and I don't know if you've ever played this game before, but I have such a fat desire to just go missing for 6 months and make a ridiculous video on Jump King. Have you ever played Jump King before, Alex?
I have not actually played it. I've seen like every YouTube video related piece of content around it though. I just have not started it myself. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
If you're a Souls-like fan, I mean, have you played like Hades or Risk of Rain or anything like that?
I've started all of them. I have not finished many, but I know about all of them. Yeah.
There's like I keep interrogating you with more questions. Have you ever? Do you watch Daryl talks games or plays games or something like that?
I do. I watch a lot of his videos.
He made a fan of his. Sorry, I have like a back end of questions. We need to put you on like a lie detector or something. But anyways,
well, the lie detector guy that does YouTube videos, he just got outed as a fraud.
You're
recently.
right. Okay,
so we can't even do that anymore.
It wouldn't even work anymore. I completely forgot about that. I asked you all of those like array of questions because one, I think, especially because I've never played a Dark Souls game before, before Elden Ring came out. And I realized, because before that I'd played Hades and I played Risk of Rain, and that was it. And I've noticed that with games like that, and especially with a game like Jump King, there's a really unique experience that you get with those games that you don't get from anything else. And I don't know, have you ever watched the video from Daryl where he talks about the psychology of like a Souls-like game?
I think I've seen. I don't know if I've finished that video, but I have seen it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He basically talks about how Dark Souls is one of the only few games where you actually see videos of people coming out and saying that it helped them deal with their own mental health problems. And that's something you don't, like, what he's trying to say is you would never get that from a game like Mario Odyssey. Like, they're absolutely amazing games, but there's a certain learning experience that you get from those things that you don't get from a game like fucking Elden Ring, where it's not trying to reward you. It's not trying to let you achieve something. And that is a fucking... Just picturing myself diving into that is like I would have to go to you as like the raw source of like, how the fuck would I do that? How the fuck would I go about the video game aspect? I feel like making a video about a video game would be a night and day difference in comparison to like the production that you have for anime or when you have to do research on those topics.
Yeah, it is difficult. It's a different thing. To talk about stuff like that. What you're talking about with Elden Ring and stuff like that, though, I've had an idea in my head to talk about anime and mental health and how they relate to each other, because, and this will actually be a question for you. For me, for whatever reason, my experience with anime was that I was in a really low point in my life when I got really into anime, and it kind of brought me out of that. And I'm wondering almost what your experience was, or if you've had anything similar to that, because I've talked to other people that have had similar things, and it seems to be almost like a recurring thing that I've seen with them, but I'm not entirely sure.
My main, I mean, to answer your question, my main thing is that I feel like all types of, like, whether it's film or movie or comic books or anime or a fucking video game or whatever, to me, it's all just like right place and right time. Like I could hand you Berserk right now. I could give you all the volumes of Berserk, and if you're just not in the mood for it, or you don't have a curiosity for it, or you're not in the right mental state to, you know, appreciate.
Yeah, it won't hit.
Yeah, it won't hit, and that's why you hear, you know. This is gonna be a ridiculous tangent, but I promise this somehow relates. There's this time during my first semester of college where I met this girl who told me it was her dream job to work at a cash register. And not only is that the funniest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life, but also it's kind of weirdly wholesome to just hear this girl talk about how nice it would be to just scan items and to just, you know, ask people how their day is going and stuff. And I feel like you see that all the time when you ask people about their favorite anime, their favorite video game. It's not this logical, like, objective 10 out of 10, like, you know, this is like Nikki Jakey says, like, this is a masterclass piece of media. Like, it's nothing like that. It's always just a matter of, it just kind of does it for me. And I feel like,
yeah, it resonates. Yeah,
it's just like it for whatever reason, like you said, you were like, you just had some form of an emotional pit, and something, it's like catches you in a wave. It just like brings you along with it, and it gets you out of it. I've shared this in my Chainsaw Man video. Like, I had that exact one-to-one experience that you just said with Chainsaw Man, where I was I was in college. It was the pandemic. I felt like I had no friends. I felt like I didn't have anything to do with my life. And I just read this weird fucking story. And for whatever reason, it has nothing to do with, you know, Chainsaw Man doing this thing or writing and characters and all that and the art style. It was literally just like a matter of, like, it's like a realization. And I'm like the last person to have ever watched BoJack Horseman. I watched that like 2 months ago. I was in like the deepest state of depression I've ever been in my life. And by the end of it, like, I finished that show, I just cried, and it like took me out of it.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes it just does that. I don't know why. I can't pinpoint why. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't know. I would not know. But I'm glad. I mean, I'm happy to hear that you had that experience. Was there so do you plan on making a specific video on that when it comes to anime? Like, was there a specific anime that you said did that for you, or do you just mean in general?
I've had the idea in general. So, like, for me personally, and it's the same reason I started my channel, it's all interlinked. During the pandemic, I had gotten into like a really bad breakup right at the start of the pandemic, and then had been locked up inside for like 6 months. So I basically had like the fast pass to like what I assume is a very similar experience to going to an insane asylum, where it's just, I'm alone. I already have like a trigger that's caused me to be like depressed and like, you know, in a funk. And then I like couldn't talk to anyone about it. And then I ended up watching, it was like a back-to-back, right? I decided to binge watch anime, and I binge watched Steins Gate, Evangelion, and Gurren Lagann.
Wow.
And it was like this perfect blend of Steins Gate being about relationships and being about like dealing with losing someone that you care about. Evangelion just being about depression and like, hey, it's okay to feel like shit sometimes. Like, we're all human. Especially the last 2 episodes, which everyone like hated, but those are my favorite episodes because it was just like Hideaki Anno doing therapy on himself.
Right.
And then the third one, which is Gurren Lagann, which is basically the coming out part. It's like, okay, Evangelion's depressing as shit. It's okay to feel bad. Now we're going to fight the fucking universe and kill God himself in a fist fight. And hell yeah, like, deal with it. And so all 3 of those just hit me perfectly and just like completely brought me out of it. And inspired me to just do something. And then I was like, okay, I just want to make videos now. I just want to like do something productive and like continue on with my life, because I kind of like put it on pause when I was just like alone in my room all day.
As the most can I label you as a weeb then? Can I label you? Would
100%.
100%? Okay, got it.
I have a whole video about why it's okay to fall in love with anime girls. Like, yeah, I'm the biggest weeb ever. I own that label.
Would you say you have a top 3 series? Would it be like the 3 that you mentioned, or do you has that list changed more recently?
Evangelion and Steins Gate are still at the top because of how they emotionally affected me. Gurren Lagann, weirdly, I would say is definitely top 5. I don't know if it would be top 3. But I would say probably, oh God, Mob Psycho is definitely up there. Because that was in a very similar capacity. Recently, Bocchi the Rock is up there because that show is just introvert heaven. I'm sure you've probably gotten even comments about people talking about it and stuff like that.
It's
but
got
it
a
is
cult
like,
following. I have never seen it. It's got a psychotic cult following.
Here's the crazy part. I start watching it, and like very first episode, it's talking about like the premise, and Bocchi is extremely introverted, doesn't want to talk to anyone. But she wants to be famous because that'll get her friends. And the way that she starts getting famous is starting a YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like that hits a little too close to home. I don't like that. So that show hit perfectly. And then Attack on Titan, weirdly enough, I just really, really enjoyed as one of the shows that I binged. Even though it didn't have that much of an emotional impact on me, I just think in general, it's like right up my alley in terms of like stuff I like. But those, I think all of those would like be somewhere in my top 5. In terms of a lot of the top anime I have is just not even like in terms of quality or like this is well written or anything. It's just like kind of vibes and like how I felt about it and how much I relate to it.
You just painted this picture in my head of you with a pink wig and a guitar and just like this pink dress. And I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know whether to be turned on or to just be like I should never have pictured that. But that's it does make sense why everybody keeps referring to that show as like this is me right now.
It is literally me for real. If I had a bigger budget for my videos, I would 100% buy a Bocchi costume and do a video about Bocchi dressed in the pink jumpsuit.
Well, I mean, speaking of budget, are you doing this full time right now?
I am right now, which is not a smart thing for me to be doing, but I am doing it. I quit my job because I just hated it. And then YouTube has been sustaining me since then. So even though it would be smarter to like work at least a part-time job or something while I'm doing this, just for like more reliable income in case like the views fall off a cliff like they could at any moment. But for right now, I'm doing it full time and just like working harder to grow my channel. Even though, again, like I would not recommend anyone like quit their job for YouTube unless you have like 1 million subscribers because they don't really, it's very hard to be consistent with it unless you've already done it for years. And like, you can see like, okay, this is how many views I know I'm going to get. This is how much money I make. Because right now I only have like a year of experience or like past history to know. So like tomorrow my channel could stop doing as well as it's doing and I'd be like fucked.
I mean, I'm mainly just asking out of my own curiosity just because I mean, I'm a college student. I'm in college student. That's not what that sentence means. I'm doing college at the same time as this, and so I always have to tackle just what I want to have as my priorities. And so when I see somebody that gets to do it full time, I just want to ask everything, like how that's been. Part of it is just because. And I do. Holy shit! I just realized it's almost been going for 3 hours. I do want to talk about this because like, just fuck the time. This actually would help me out a lot. There's a certain fear that I have where I hate, and this is just like a gripe that I've had with YouTube for quite some time now. It's that I hate the feeling of watching a video and it feels like I am the paycheck. Like I'm not even watching this for entertainment anymore. It's like my watch time is you paying rent. And that's how you start to see videos that are like, hey, like watch it till the end, guys. Like there's something exciting here at the end.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, and there's just
Patreon plugs in general a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even mind like plugs and stuff. I just hate the whole like, shoving text at the front of your face. Please watch this. I'm fucking begging you. I hate that, and I do fear that when the day, it would be a dream for me to be able to get the chance to do this full time, but a fear that I have is that you can tell that I made that transition, as opposed to there's this kind of innocence that I feel right now in terms of, I got my last video copyrighted because I just don't give a shit. Like I
saw that.
I just don't like, I'm in college. Like I don't have this stress of of that yet. And what I'm scared of, and more so just me like asking advice from your end, like how has that been? Do you feel like you're still tackling that, like trying to balance making good art while also, having to realize that this does pay the bills?
I think it's a big worry in my head. I think pretty much every YouTuber that starts doing it has that idea, just because it is. Yeah, it's, you start off doing it for fun, because everyone starts making YouTube videos for fun. No one like gets successful in their first video, unless you're extremely lucky. But I don't even think I can think of a person who's had something like that. I think
that's kind of unlucky though, because if you start with a video that blows up, it's
guaranteed you're cursed at that point.
It's just guaranteed to be
because then you have no idea.
Spiral.
You have to fail at it first. That's another thing. I highly recommend anyone who wants to start doing YouTube to look at Doug's video where he talks about like how to be a YouTuber, because he's like, all right, I had a plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the types of videos that I wanted to make. He's also a Twitch streamer, so he's like, I knew the types of streams that I wanted to make, and then I did that for like a year. And only was after the year of like doing it consistently that he had any success. And I think it's important for everyone that starts doing it to have that year of failure, to know what works and what doesn't, and to like grow consistently in terms of like personal growth as opposed to like subscriber count. Because if you just get lucky with like your first video, it's very hard to like know where to go from there, or like how to deal with a 10 out of 10 when that inevitably does happen.
Right. And I mean, it's also you develop the habit of, oh, this thing worked, I'm gonna be the guy who does that every time, and it's like that's not, you're just not gonna grow from that. It's just, you're just gonna do, it's like iceberg charts. There was a point where iceberg charts were like a cheat code, and if you just continue,
that was like Wendigoon's entire channel for like forever, and then he's like, all right, I'm just gonna do something different, and like kind of like, I think thankfully he had like 1 million subscribers at that point. But like there's so many YouTubers who start doing exactly one thing, and then they're like, I don't actually like doing this one thing. I just did it because it got views, and they switch and their channel dies instantly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, that's why I started immediately. Where like I did a Elden Ring video did well. I'm like, I'm going to do other random gaming videos. I need to like distance myself from this. And then I had my fan service video blow up, and I'm like, all right, I need to do more gaming videos so that I can then in the future do them, and people expect that from me, as opposed to like, oh, I've built my channel off of like one type of video, and like now I'm switching up. It hurts me. I'd much rather grow slower if it means like just being able to like have that like ability to like switch up what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
And people know that I'm going to do that. But yeah, in terms of like having that idea in the back of my head of like, oh, I'm doing this because it'll pay my rent, or like, if I make a video that's more clickbaity, it'll do better, even if it's like less artistically integral. Or like if I do, these certain kinds of videos, they'll do better than these ones, and like all that. It's constantly in the back of my mind. But I also think a part of YouTube as a job, or like doing it consistently in any way, is balancing that and finding ways to make what you want successful. And I think that just comes like as part of it. I don't think that there's like necessarily like you're giving up like any sort of like artistic vision in order to like do something. And I think also in the way I've built my channel, I don't care about that anyway. I try to use, like, I just have videos that are like way too long for like what I'm talking about, or like where I know I'm like, I could make this a 20-minute video, it would do better. I'm not going to do that. I don't care. And I've had a lot of like positive encouragement in the fact that the videos that I've done that have been the weirdest videos have also done the best. Like my fan service video and my horror games video were like complete one-offs of like what I was doing at the time, and those did really well. So that kind of told me like I can just kind of do whatever, and as long as it's good, people will watch it and like keep watching it. And I try to structure my channel in such a way that I am as open about everything as possible. Like my Patreon, I've structured entirely around it's supplemental. I'm not going to paywall anything. I'm not going to like make a main channel video and then say, haha, you got to pay $5 for this one. Like join the Patreon for it. It's all just like extra stuff because I can put up like uncensored videos there and stuff like that. And so I'm like, price it as low as possible. I don't care if people give me money. Like this isn't what this is for. I did one sponsorship essentially as a joke. I don't know if Raid Shadow Legends knew that it was a joke, but I certainly
They don't. I promise you, they don't even know what language.
They definitely don't. They definitely don't. But that entire Cyberpunk video is basically made ironically, where it's an entire video about how bad video game marketing is, and then it opens with a Raid Shadow Legends commercial, which is really funny to me. And then also you're talking about how you did a sponsored video and you had to like grind really hard in order to get it out. That video, I had to crunch to the bone to get it out on time, which is also really funny for a video about Cyberpunk where the entire video is about how crunch ruined the game. So there's just a bunch of, that whole video is so funny to me in hindsight because I did everything I say you shouldn't do kind of like on purpose.
It's kind of like when people were defending Lolly, like there was not Lolly, when the author of Fire Force was defending the fan service, and he's just like, it's meta. There's a message behind it. You get to just
it's entirely
you get to pull that card. You're like, guys, I made like $4,000 ironically. Like, what do you mean? I just
exactly.
I just have a Lamborghini now. It's a joke. Come on, like.
Well, like that sponsorship did give me a good bit of money, and I'm glad that I did it financially, but like I have gotten sponsorships from companies that are on that same level and have rejected them because I don't want to do something like that if it's not either that I would like endorse them without being paid, it's just a company I genuinely love, or as a joke, like as an ironic bit that everyone is kind of in on. Yeah, because I get sponsorship emails and like stuff like that. Like there's so many opportunities you get to make money if you just want to go that way. But you don't have to. Like you can just kind of keep doing YouTube to whatever standard of integrity you want. And there are YouTubers who do sponsors for like every single video and like stuff like I watch a lot of Ludwig and he does a daily upload with like a new sponsor every day. Right. Or like full ads, and you can join him and like add to the Patreon and all that stuff. And I'm sure he's like open from the start that that's what he's doing. And so I don't care. No one cares when watching him. No one's like, oh, this guy sold out, because it's like he's very open and honest about it. I think if it worries you that something's going to like affect your integrity because you're doing it for money, you just don't have to do it. And like people understand. And as long as you're making good content, the content does well. I think that's kind of the beauty of YouTube, is that like good videos just kind of naturally like get their due if they're genuinely good enough. And if not, then like you can make another good video and that'll do well. Like my horror games video bombed when it first came out. I made that video, only got like maybe 10,000 views, something like that, for months. And then my fan service video came out. That video blew up. And then everyone just went back to the horror games video and liked it and blew that video up to my most viewed video. So I think that like it just kind of got its due in that respect.
I've had that exact same thing happen to me. I did this video where I forced myself to read 30 recommendations. And that, I mean, what was funny, and I think the reason why it blew up was because half of it was porn, but it was also just a matter.
Yeah, I've seen that video. That video is very similar to my random video, where it's just people want to watch you suffer.
Yeah, it's like it's such a them video and nothing. I don't get anything. Like I don't receive any pleasure from that, which is I mean that's a dynamic in itself. But I mean that video blew up, and then I had this video about a Yashimon that I made like almost a year before that. Like hit 1 million views. And the thing is that one of them I was like, okay, this is funny. Like I'm kind of proud of this one. The other one I was like, this is terrible. Why did Susan, why are you doing this to me, Susan? Because now I have a bunch of people roasting me on how I pronounce fucking Baki. So like, it just wasn't, there are definitely times where I wish I could pick and choose the art that does the best, which will never be the case. Yeah. That'll never be the case with YouTube. It's also funny that you mentioned the thing about the sponsorship. I take a lot of consideration into pacing. It's the reason why I watch my own videos over like 100 times, and then each segment like 1,000 times, just because I want to feel like it's not jarring or too jarring at points, or like it's like at a complete stop. And the only sponsor that was willing to like deal with that was NordVPN. And so I made a 45-minute video, and I put it, I asked them 3 times. I was like, hey man, can I just put it anywhere? Like it doesn't say anywhere on the contract that it needs to be at a certain segment of the video. And the guy was like, yeah, anywhere you feel like is appropriate. And I was like, okay. And then I didn't say anything. And then I uploaded the video and I put it at the very end. Now I'm pretty sure I'm probably on a blacklist for NordVPN now. I have probably sealed the deal that they never want to work with me again. But I like the way the video turned out, and I mean you get paid either way. It's not like they're gonna say fuck you. So I mean, you gotta take what you can get. I hate to cut this off. I honest to God, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, if we could do this for 10 hours, I would. But it is starting to get pretty late here. I want to ask you one last question from one Alex to another, because I feel like I've learned a lot from this. Like I mean, a big reason for why I wanted to start this series was just for my own sake. I feel like I learned so much about the medium and the videos that I make when I hear what other people think of it and just their thought process. And so the last thing I want to ask you, Alex, if you could give 3 bits of advice to anybody that wanted to start making videos, or just 3 philosophies that you like to remind yourself whenever you're making something, what would you say it is, either to me or to anybody that's watching this?
Oh God. So I think I talked about it before, but my big thing is that making videos or like doing anything that you want to do is like a passionate career should be first and foremost enjoyable, and it should be easy, or not easy in the term that it's like, oh, la-di-da, I made a video in a day, but it shouldn't feel like work when you're doing it. To me, when I'm editing or writing a video or anything like that, it doesn't feel like work in the same way that job type work does. And so I think the biggest thing is always to look at what comes naturally to you, what is easy for you to do, and what like you enjoy doing, and then just lean into that, because inevitably, if you're just naturally talented at something, you're just going to be better at it, and you're going to like be successful at it. And everyone has something that they are talented at that they can lean into in order to like be successful on any type of platform. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have anything that's million subscriber YouTube channel worthy if they like really thought about how to like turn it into content or any other thing that they want to do. My other thing is just, and it's probably I don't know, it again goes back to like the toxic work behavior, but I think it is genuinely positive. And it's just the idea that like, if you're making videos, you are competing with everyone who has ever made that kind of video. And it sounds like a negative thought. It sounds like, oh, I shouldn't even like compete with all these people who have made all this stuff before. But I think it's very like freeing to learn that nobody making YouTube videos knows what the fuck they're doing, like at all. No one was just born to like make YouTube videos and they like came out and their first one was amazing. And then they're like, oh, and that's just it. And I make million subscriber YouTube videos now and it's nothing to me. Everyone is just figuring this stuff out. Like I guarantee the top YouTube channels, if you go to like Markiplier or Mr. Beast, like at some point they were figuring out how to like open OBS or like figure out how Premiere worked or like, how do I even make a thumbnail that looks good? Like all of that stuff. So when you're talking about like competing with everyone, you just have to realize that like these people are this good because they were like, they figured it out and they were able to like just kind of do it. And anyone can do that. Literally anyone can do what Mr. Beast did. Like I think his is the most obvious because his first videos is just him like counting to 1 million or something stupid. But like anyone can do that and anyone has that ability. There's no like barrier to entry where it's like, oh, you've got to be this skilled at this like camera presence or like anything like that, because you just don't have to be on camera if you're not comfortable on camera, if you don't think you're good on camera. You don't have to script your videos if you're really bad at writing scripts. You can just do what you're like naturally good at and like what appeals to you and be successful at it enough to do like any number of things. And so like looking at other YouTube channels, it's like, yeah, you have to realize that like all of these people were at one point in the exact same situation as you, but it also should then motivate you to, like, if you're going to make a Let's Play, why would I watch your Let's Play over Markiplier's? Why would I watch you over Jacksepticeye or all these people? You should try and think of, and it doesn't even have to be something major, just what you're going to do that's going to cause someone to like you over them. And it can literally be a simple, like Jacksepticeye's gimmick is that he's Irish. I don't think enough people realize that. Like his reason for success is that he has an Irish accent.
There are definitely other things.
There are.
He has green hair.
But it's like, yeah, exactly. But like, it can be as simple as like you do one little quirky thing and that's enough for people to be like, oh, I want to check this out and like want to do that. And if you can figure out just that one thing, like you're golden, like you're good. And it can be, again, for me, it's as simple as like I put a couch in my videos and I think that's funny and interesting. And I'm sure that there's some people who like my videos because of the way I present them or like the way they look compared to other similar types of videos. And it's just like small little stuff like that is like super able. But everyone making YouTube just knows like nothing when they begin. Everyone is just starting out. Like it's like when you become an adult and you realize that like no one knows what they're doing, no one knows how to pay taxes. We are all just kind of figuring it out and like going with it as we go. And it's very relaxing to understand that, but I also think it should motivate people to like figure out what you can do better than someone else, because everyone has something they can do better than someone else in some specific aspect. If you want to do videos like mine, you can definitely do some things better than I can. Just figure out what they are and like lean into them.
Just to add on to that, I have a quote that is a misquote of two people, and I don't know which is from which, so I'm just going to combine them into one. The two people are Super Eye Patch Wolf and Stephen King, very, very similar people. But the quote goes something along the lines of, there's this wonderful trio of you're very talented at something, you're successful at that thing, and you also love doing it. And if you have all three of those things, you do it until your fingers bleed and your eyes want to fall out. I don't know who said which parts of those, but I stick with that all the fucking time. And that's, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. Lextorias phrased it perfectly. I mean, with every word that he just said, I 100% agree with it. I super enjoyed this. I did not. Every time I feel like I picture like a certain amount of time of how long this will take, it just ends up being like 10 times that. So I'm happy with it. I do.
That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, fucking. I hope so, because after this I'm never speaking to you again. I hated this. So this was absolutely miserable. Yeah. This is it'll be up there.
It's like a charity kid that you're like, oh, you get to meet John Cena. It's like, oh, I get to meet Alex, and now I get to.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought I was the Make-A-Wish kid.
No, are you kidding me? You got twice as many subscribers as me.
We just agreed that number does not matter. It just absolutely does not matter at all. Bigger number, better person, guys. Simple equation. Mm-hmm. But
he is twice as big as me in real life. A lot of people don't know this. My camera kind of shifts the perspective. I'm only 3 feet tall.
That's crazy. I'm 7'2". Yeah. That's wild. We're like complete opposites. Okay, but just to end it off, I'll just give you the table. Where can anybody find you? Anything you want to announce? Anything you want to promote? Just it's all yours.
Lextorias, Lextorias on literally everything. Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, YouTube. I think if you Google my name, I show up. It's just very few people have a username like that. You can find me on there. I make YouTube videos, trying to do twice a month now, so hopefully that works out and I don't regret promising that on live video. I have I don't even know, shit posts on Twitter, so you can follow me there, and I post regularly about like what I'm doing and what I'm planning. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Lextorias, thank you so much for taking my name, and really just no thank you for you coming on at all.